Hey folks, good evening and welcome to another Spaces with me. My name is Kalu Aja, and this we call it our money space. And of course, here we're talking money, the economy, personal finance. I want to make the topics of money relevant to you, to your wallet, make it easy so you can understand it, and then we can use it to our advantage, right? This week we're talking taxes, and if you've been a Nigerian or if you've been listening to the Nigerian news, you've heard about the slew of tax that have been imposed on our budgets, right, on our own personal budgets and wallets. The latest, of course, last week was the so-called Nigerian cyber security tax that was asked to be implemented across the board, and that was a regressive tax. Essentially, the summary of that tax was if you do an electronic transfer, you would pay a tax. It doesn't matter how much you earn or what your need is. Once you do a transfer, you would pay a tax. The tax would go to a fund, the Nigerian Cybersecurity Fund, also managed by the NSC or under the control of the Nigerian Security Advisor, who would then supposedly use these funds to protect us from cybersecurity threats. This is a point 0.5, percentage point on the transfers that you make. Huge amount of money would have flowed to that fund. I say it would have flowed because just yesterday we got news that the president had asked them to step down the implementation. Just the latest stage, guys. The act itself, the Cybersecurity Act itself, is new. People are telling you online that it was passed in 2015. No, the 2015 Act taxed businesses. So it was a business tax, and it literally listed the business that was going to pay. You had the telecoms, you had the banks, you had, I believe, who else was it? The stockbroking firms, right? The guys that do capital market transactions. They are literally listed. Those were the guys that were going to pay this tax. So that the idea being, as they do their services via electronic means, they pay a tax, and then the NSA is to protect them from cyber crime and all that kind of stuff. Not you and I. We were never supposed to pay. The new act, what they simply did was they substituted businesses and they put business, and they now said we are to pay. They only put it on one line there that we are to pay, and we were listed as the customers, but it's still listed the businesses there. So lots of confusion there. It's been stepped down, but that leads us to our topic: are Nigerians overtaxed? The answer is yes. You don't need to be a genius. The answer is yes. And if you look at I know the last post that I did is sort of, I don't know what's happened to Twitter. It sort of went away. But I tried to list for you guys the debt to the, should we say, GDP to tax for Nigeria and compare it across the board with other African countries, even the US, and to see if we are actually paying our fair share. The long and short is this: Nigerians are not paying. If you look at tax to GDP, our tax rate or our tax collection is lower than all African states, I think, apart from the Congo or something like that, where we're the second lowest, I think, in Africa. I think it's we just beat Equatorial Guinea, and of course, Equatorial Guinea has a lot of crude oil, so they don't really care about taxes. But I think we're just number two on that slot. We just pick Equatorial Guinea. The average for Africa is about 13%. The average for the world is about 34%. That's GDP to tax. Nigeria, give or take, about 6%. Now, these figures are tax GDP ratio as at 2021. So if you look at overall and you say, are Nigerians as a tax paying, should we say, population, do we pay taxes when you compare that to our GDP? Of course, the answer is going to be no, we don't pay as much. But the data has to be nuanced. We've got to go into the data to see, why do Nigerians not pay taxes? I mean, one reason is simply this: when a Nigerian builds a house, he provides everything in that house. He provides the water via borehole, generator, provides power, even his own security. He's got the iron bars, high walls, electric fences. So Nigerians spend more doing what the government, the local government, the state government should have done for them. So invariably, this is maybe we could say the formal taxes Nigerians don't pay, but the informal taxes Nigerians do pay a lot because the social services are non-existent. We don't have social security, we don't have free medical care in most states. So the Nigerians salary earners have got to provide their own basic services across the board. But let's go deeper into this thing and say, okay, where should these taxes go? We've said that they don't provide social services, but where do the taxes that Nigerians pay actually go to? Again, guys, I'm going to share it again in case you can't find it. I just shared something on how Nigeria spends her taxes, and I'm picking the actual figures. This is not the budget. This is the actual figures from the federal government. So if you look at that tweet, if you look at my profile, you'll see it. How Nigeria spends her taxes. If we simply take salaries, pensions, and overheads, I just stopped there. I didn't go down to the entire recurrent expenditure. I just picked from the recurrent expenditures. I just picked salaries, which is personal cost. I picked pensions, and I picked overhead costs. If you add up these three, just these three alone, on the actual revenues the federal government of Nigeria gets, then we're spending 95% of the taxes that we earn on salaries, pensions, and overheads of only civil servants in Nigeria. Let me say it again, 95% of the total revenues that Nigeria gets is spent on only salaries, pensions, and overheads of only civil service workers. Forget about social security, forget about roads, capital expenditure, forget about debt. Taxes, the salaries alone take up all the revenue. So someone says, so how do we build roads? Well, we borrow. That's why we're borrowing so much. And that's why your taxes are going up. Because your taxes are borrowing. When you borrow and when you increase taxes, it's the same effect. Taxes are just it's easier because the borrowings are easier. So because you hide the borrowings, but taxes affect you immediately. But it's the same effect. So the government is basically borrowing to do more stuff. We have a bloated civil service and we have huge expenditures that we spend money on. Fuel subsidy, as you guys know now, is back, and fuel subsidy is taking away half of the dollar revenue that Nigeria is making. So even when we sell crude oil, we're paying revenues in dollars, or we're paying expenses in dollars to fund crude oil. And that's where we are. We find ourselves that the government is earning money, spends all the money on salaries, and then has got to tax or raise those taxes to then pay itself for the other services that it wants to provide. And that's the genesis, guys, of your taxes. So if you just take a quick, just top of your head, what are the taxes you have seen in 2024? Just top of your head. I mean, we've seen the sugar tax. That was last year when we had the budget. Now, we've seen cybersecurity levy that has been stepped down. We've seen the stamp duties, right? It is there. We were supposed to have seen a telecom tax that has gone away, but I'm hearing it's going to come back because the federal government wants to borrow money from the World Bank, and they've asked them to introduce that telecom tax. There's a processing fee on large deposits. I saw it come back. I'm not sure if it's taken it away, right? VAT has gone up. Lots of multiple levies that are not really coded as taxes have basically gone up. If you want to import goods from Nigeria, the customs fee has gone up. If you want to pay, say, NAFDAC, the fee has gone up. Things like that. So when you don't even have the real taxes going up, our taxes have stayed the same, but your cost of doing business in Nigeria have gone up considerably. So why is this topic important? Because if you tax Nigerians, then you take away their revenue, you take away their ability to spend. And if Nigerians do not spend in any economy, if the citizens do not spend, of course the economy can't grow, because then no company would produce goods, no SMEs would produce goods if they can't sell it to anyone. So if I have an SME in my town and I produce goods and nobody can buy it because they are paying taxes or they are buying only food, then I can't be in business for long. So high taxes take away your disposable income. And when your disposable income goes away, you don't spend, and then the economy starts to shrink, and the tax revenues itself shrinks. So it's a vicious circle that the more you tax, the more you reduce and shrink your economy. The more you reduce taxes and expand the base, the more you gain taxes. And if you want to Google this, there's something called the Laffer curve. I'll try to post it up. The Laffer curve, Laffer, talks about if you increase taxes, your revenues from those taxes actually go down because the capital is mobile just simply goes away and hides. So the long and short is this. And again, guys, if you want to speak, you know the drill. If you want to speak, send a DM or request to speak. The Nigerian households are overtaxed. Overtaxed. And their revenues have not gone up, which is their wages, what they earn hasn't gone up. And the net effect of this is going to be that we will see that the economy will keep on shrinking because you've not increased the minimum wage, but you have increased how much taxes you want to take from the people. Hence, you are shrinking the economy, you are curtailing consumption, and you are going to curtail GDP. We've had the suspension of the cyber tax. Why can't we suspend every tax for the next 6 months in this quote-unquote recessionary period whilst we allow folks to recover? That's the question. Why can't we suspend everything? And everyone just cuts down on the spending. The government cuts down on the spending, and we try to reflate this economy. Because you can't tax the unemployed. You can't tax those that are not making a profit. You tax incomes. If I'm not making an income, where am I going to pay the taxes for? And that, guys, is my take, my opening take. I like to give the data to guide us. And again, if you can't see all that information, I think just go to my page, look on the pinned tweet right there. You will see most of the data that I'm speaking about on it. So it's back to you guys. I mean, this is my take. Maybe you guys have a different take on this. Are you overtaxed? Do you pay more in taxes? Remember, when you buy PMS, and the PMS is quote-unquote subsidized, there's no subsidy. You are paying a tax on the inefficiency of the federal government. If the federal government did not run fuel importation, storage, and distribution, you would not pay what you are paying. The huge cost you are paying is because of the inefficiency of the government in running that sector. So you are paying an inefficiency tax. Your inflation, food is expensive wherever you live in Nigeria, is 40%. That is the biggest tax in Nigeria, inflation, because you can't avoid it. So everybody in Nigeria is paying inflation tax of 40%. So if you just start off from there and you say whatever income you earn, you have already paid 40%. So you have 60% to survive on. How much do you pay for school fees or rent? Then how much are you going to pay to eat? So it's a crazy world out there, right? And I just want to hear from the guys out there. I think Nigerians are taxed a lot. And in economics, we are taught that if you reduce taxes, you actually grow the economy. You don't increase taxes when the economy is weak. It actually kills the economy. So high taxes kill consumption, which kill the economy. Low taxes stimulate the economy, which actually grows GDP. But we're doing the wrong way in Nigeria, hence our tweet. All right, guys, let me go to my first DM. Kalu, I disagree with you that Nigerians do not pay taxes. Nigerians pay a lot of taxes, just that it is not recorded. It is. For instance, in Lagos, we pay a lot of taxes, but it is not official. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you, Daniel. That's the point I'm making, that there's a lot of things that we pay in Nigeria that are not rated as taxes. So if you pull up, like I said, the GDP report I've just posted here, Nigerians are said to be paying 6%. 6% of what we pay is 6% of our GDP. But they're not counting things like levies, what we pay to drill a borehole. They're not counting that in that 6%. If they counted the total cost that we pay for goods that should have been paid by the government, you will see that it will rise much, much more than 6% to give or take 40 or 30, because we pay a lot informally in Nigeria. So I agree with you completely. That's the point I'm making. Kelechi, what's on your mind, sir?
Yeah, good evening, Carlo. You've spoken my mind, and I agree with you for what you said about the indirect tax. Because if you go to, let me give you a scenario. If you go to any local markets close to you, you see that those women that sell vegetable and other food items, when you talk to them, you see that just a single vegetable seller has up to 10, sometimes 7 tickets in a day. So you see some group of people coming to, request for money for different things.
Yeah.
Some people say they are from the local government, some are from the state government, from all manner of people. So I think the problem we have in Nigeria is how to harmonize this tax collection. I don't think we'll have a problem of revenue generation. We already have the population to get this money. But how do we harmonize it? We see a lot of group of people coming to collect money. How does it get remitted to the government? Or you just see people that come to collect money and disappear. Then the next day they still come back with their sticks and machetes to also harass, the traders. So it's also contributing to the reason why we are having hike in food prices, because these petty traders keep paying all manner of tax, indirect tax, that at the end of the day gets lost in the process of remittance. So I think we are already paying a lot, but the government has been inefficient in getting this tax together and using it for the betterment of all Nigerians. So I agree with what you said about the indirect tax. I just want to lend a voice to that based on the experiences I've had with petty traders across Nigeria.
And that's a real one across the board. I was in the market. I'm doing a study in the market in Lagos. I went to the market in Lagos, and just like you've said, it's a slew of taxes. You pay for your shed, you pay to display your goods. This is just minus the official local government that they charge you for market day taxes. They pay a lot of fees. This is just official. Then the area boys come and collect from them as well. So all those taxes they have to build back into their cost. So when they want to sell pepper, they build back up into the cost of pepper. So when you buy that pepper, you are paying for all those illegal taxes that have been collected across the board. But also, Kenichi, you also make a good point. See, Nigerian, before we had BVN and maybe NIN, think about it. There was no way to know who is really spending money or lives in Nigeria to be taxed. In the States, you have a social security number. If you want to buy a house, you have to quote your social. If you want to buy shares, you have to quote your social. If you want to open a bank account, you have to quote your social. So the IRS just has to do collation of data. They just collect data from everybody, and they can tell that this individual bought a house. So if you're buying a house, it means you have income. Okay, where's the income? So they can just go after you. But in Nigeria, there is absolutely no way to know that Kalu Aja here is Kalu Aja there. There is no BVM by biometrics. We have all this data from all these institutions, but it's not linked, it's not collated, they don't talk to each other. So you have your thumbprint with federal road safety call, you have it in Nigerian passport, you have it in the PFA, but they're not talking. So all this huge population in Nigeria cannot generate any taxes. The FIRS wants to raise 20 billion. This is their target, the FIRS in 2024. Their target, this is going to be a monster target too, is 20 billion. It's really nothing if you compare to what is just FIRS to what South Africa raises. This is nothing. And this is their target they want to raise. But if you reduce all those taxes to even if it's 100 naira, and you ask all the traders to pay, you make a lot more money than going after. The taxes in Nigeria are sometimes obscene. Like you said, 15 tickets for transportation, police on the roadway collecting monies from you is crazy. Crazy. Yeah, so Kelechi, thanks for that. Let me just go back to it. Just wanted to clarify, just want to clarify on 95% of income is being used. What year are you speaking about? So I'm quoting the Nigerian Budget Office, March 2023. That's the latest figures we have in Nigeria, March 2023. If you look at that number, I put it on my site, you will see that when Nigeria earns 100 naira, we spend 95 naira on salaries, pension, and overheads of only civil service workers. I just stopped at those three: salaries, pension, overhead. That data has got more point, like you see, amnesty is included there. I didn't talk about the amnesty. You also see service-wide votes, Gavi. I didn't talk about all those ones. Just salaries, allowances, and pensions. Take 95%. This is as at March 2023, and it's not telling to be different this year, or it will have fallen dramatically. We haven't sacked anybody in the federal civil service, right? So that cost is still going to be there. The difference is going to be what's going to be the revenues coming in. So if you have a country that is spending 95% of our income on just federal civil service workers alone, they have to go get taxes. That's what's going on. So the issue to attack it from the basis to ask the question, how efficient is that civil service? Should we increase taxes or should we reduce spending? That's really where we are right now. Is it a spending problem or is it a revenue problem? If we increase these revenues, what do you think is going to happen to them? They will simply pay more civil service workers. That's just it. So again, the figures are from the federal government itself. I have put the link up on there. So that's where it is. If you look on the link, you will see it. It's right there. And yes, I agree with you. Nigerians do not pay taxes. But again, I will not pay taxes because the federal government does not show what it does with them. I agree. There's a lot of wastage. I completely agree with a lot of wastage with the federal government. So we have to watch it completely. Sonny, what's up, man? What's on your mind?
Yeah, hello, greetings everyone. Yeah, I think like you said, Nigeria overtaxed. Yes, for me, it's absolutely yes, because most things that federal government is supposed to provide for Nigerians,
Yeah,
they're not getting it from federal government, and they are doing it like personal. Like what I mean, you give yourself electricity. Sorry for that. Excuse me. Water, road. You pay for vigilante. So I mean, what do the real people benefit from? The country called Nigeria. I don't understand. That's why sometimes you see those people, who are tax collectors. They will always have a problem with the people who pay tax, like like the shops and stuff like that. Because those people will be questioning them. Why am I benefiting? I do everything for myself. I did everything for myself. I paid for the security to save my shop, and I buy water in case maybe I need water for my shop and stuff like that. That's the reason why the people are not really interested to pay tax. And the federal government on one side, they are overtaxing people. You understand? The reason why businesses is not moving in Nigeria is the fact that you see a lot of like local government and state, federal, multiple taxation coming up all the way. And you ask yourself, why? Because before before you pay your tax, you have to know what the benefit. I mean, you don't just pay tax for no reason. And people say Nigeria don't pay tax. That is lie. If you live in a country that's sensitive country and very organized, you don't have any say to say you will not pay your tax. You must pay.
but let me ask you: Do you pay do you work formally or do you work for just to find out something?
Yeah, I work for myself.
So I don't know if you can answer this question, but do you pay what taxes do you pay? Like, do you pay annual taxes like for your income? I don't want to put you on the spot. If I don't know.
No. I don't pay. I don't pay my like what you just said. I don't pay, but I pay for local government.
VAT.
Yeah. I don't pay that kind of what you just said. I pay local government. I pay state and federal coming as well. So
Okay.
just two parts. I mean, there are a lot, different and people claiming those kind of, yeah.
Yeah, because I used to have an office, highbrow area and all that, and I at the point I think I counted about 12 taxes that I was paying to local government and state government. Things like paying for ozone layer. I remember my office was closed down by 1 a.m. 1 a.m. one night, we're all asked to go to the state government's head office, and we said, why was it closed? They said, because we don't have any trees in front of the office, so we're not fighting the ozone layer in front of my office. Serious stuff. And then we used to pay for if I can remember off the top of my head, I paid for business license, I paid for television, I paid for radio, I paid for sewage, I paid for borehole, I paid for generator emissions, I paid for like the ozone, I paid for environmental, I paid for business permit, then I paid for parking. This is 10. I've counted 10 already. I paid for parking. So the parking was funny because to park in front of my office, I have to pay the local government for cars to park in front of my office. If I don't do that, they will tow the car from my office. This is my own office space. So 10. There were more, but this was like 10. I just counted 10 for you. So how do most businesses survive is just what gets me. If you pay 10 licenses or taxes before you even do business, then how can you do business and make a profit?
Let me just add to, sorry to bother me. There's even one tax they call infrastructure tax. I don't know if you heard about it. Saying about infrastructure, road, all of that. But you keep asking yourself, where's the road? So those things, I don't know. For me, I just feel like people are using it just to enrich themselves, and those money are not going to the federal government, or they're not even going to the state or local government. So they kind of control those kind of, and they sign an agreement with the state, local government, or federal, whatsoever. Like they'll be remitting, just a tick of it, because there's nobody can monitor them. So there are a lot, like you said, there are even more than that. There was one time they closed my shop. They said because I wasn't able to pay infrastructure tax, they closed it. So at the end of the day, I went we bargained, at the end I give the money, they open it. So that's just how it is. It's frustrating. So a lot of people close down and shop and say, you know what, let me just go to my house. I have a house. Let me just do my stuff in the house. After all, there's a communication. Someone can call me, I can go and supply whatever I want to supply. So that's how people have started relocating now, just because of, it's not really business friendly, if I may say. It's not.
And that's the point. Yeah, that's the point we're making with the Laffer curve. Let me put the Laffer curve up there. The Laffer curve is saying if you increase taxes to a level, taxes fall to zero. And if you keep taxes at zero, taxes are zero. In the sense, essence is saying if you overtax people, they take that capital and the fee. That's what it says. So if you come to the business marketer, you say you are going to pay this high taxes, people simply run away and you get nothing. But if you keep your taxes rather low, when they can pay and you increase the base, they actually get more tax revenues. It's called the Laffer curve effect. And every time you see government taxing luxuries, things like that, it never works because the rich guys just hide their capital. So it's very, very difficult to tax that. Yeah. Yeah, good point, Sonny. Yeah, and then just quickly go to the tweets, right, or the messages. Someone's asking about, we should talk about the cyber security tax. That tax, as I understand it, as of today, has been stepped down. And like I said at the very, very beginning, that was a very, very regressive and very, very bad tax. What they were attempting to do was to tax all transactions, irrespective of who was making them, irrespective of the income of the person making them. Let me give you just an example like this that's silly. If Dangote writes a check to pay salaries, so Dangote is a Nigerian. If he writes a check to pay salaries, he does not pay that cyber security tax. If I receive that check as my salary and I then write a check to my mother for her upkeep in the village, I pay the tax because it's not a salary. Because the exemptions to this rule is that it has to be bank to bank or like things like salary. So if I'm not paying my mom a salary, then she pays the tax. Doesn't make any sense. One, Dangote is richer than me. Number two, he can code it as a salary and avoid it. So when you want to do things like this, it's got to be at a level. You got to say, okay, from 10 million, then you pay that tax, or from whatever you pay that tax. So you exclude the very, very poor, the very, very base of the pyramid. You exclude them from a tax list. In this essence, it is the poor guys that cannot write checks to companies or cannot pay salaries, but are receiving salaries, are going to pay the tax. So if you receive a salary, you pay. But if you pay the salary, you don't pay. It doesn't make any sense. So, and again, like I said, this act was not for individuals to pay. If you look at the 2015 Act, it was specific, not just the businesses, it listed the business to pay. Telecoms, banks, stockbroking firms, it listed them to pay. This new act, somebody just tried to be smart and included consumers into the act and made us customers and said, oh, the bank should remit from their customers. No, it was supposed to be if I write a check, the bank makes money from it because I've written a check, and the bank pays the cybersecurity fund. The same way the banks pay their Lagos State, thing that the security fund that the police has. No, companies pay to the police fund. It's the same thing. I don't pay to the police fund. Companies pay to the police fund. But they sort of want to change it to allow the banks to collect those funds from their customers and remit to this to the cybersecurity fund, which is just horrible. You can't have a regressive tax when people are really suffering, especially when you have a lot of poor people. So the president has stepped it down. I think he should cancel it. But why not? Why just this one? He should go further. All taxes should be stepped up for the next 6 months. That's really what I think. Step down taxes for the next 6 months. That becomes a sort of a stimulus to all Nigerians. Customs rates should come down. Why is it 1,200? Why? What are customs importing? If you import a good, why are they using 1,400? Why can't they use 1 to 1? Why? It's a subsidy. I'm not saying it's the right number, but it's a subsidy. So if you want to reduce taxes so you boost consumption locally, and when there's local consumption, then the SMEs can thrive. But if you keep taxes high because of IGR, you will make your IGR and all the companies will basically fold up. Look at the companies in Nigeria. They're all leaving because Nigerians can't afford their products. And we can't afford their products because we are paying so much money in inflation, which is a tax, in inefficiencies where we have high costing PMS, and even the raw plain vanilla taxes. So we've got to get rid of that. So Stevenson, that's my point. You just got to get rid of all those arbitrary taxes. We have a lot of taxes coming. Band A for power, that's a tax. That's a tax. The band A you're paying for power, that's a tax. We hear that they're going to bring back the telecom tax. It's about 5% telecom tax. We heard they want to borrow money from the World Bank and they want to bring it back. It's incoming. And why are they borrowing? Because they are spending 95% of their income on salaries. So they've got to really cut down on the wastage in this federal civil service or grow revenues. They have to do both. On Russian report is there, it was announced with fanfare are going to cut down. I'm not saying anything cut down so far. So yeah, thanks for that message. I just want to point out that the president has stepped it down, so I'm not really going to talk much about it. Let's see what's going to happen. Number two, I see you posted the U.S. Tax rate spending and Nigerian tax spending. We can't compare ourselves to the U.S. The U.S. makes money from, and the U.S. I get all that. We're not comparing the U.S. to Nigeria. We're making a point that the U.S. spends the bulk of its tax revenues on social services. If you look at how the U.S. spends its money, and I saw also my profile. Social security is number one. The US spends the bulk of their tax revenues on social security. And of course, national defense. So an American can argue that, okay, I want to pay taxes because you're going to pay social security. It doesn't matter if social security is badly managed. But the point is that the Americans spend the bulk of their tax revenues on social services. Nigeria spends the bulk of her tax revenues on only civil servants. Let me repeat that number. 95% of the tax revenues that Nigeria is making goes to only salaries, pensions, and overheads of federal civil servants. That's a crazy number if you think about it. So we've got to fix that. We've got to really fix it. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. Going anywhere fast. Yes. So yes, the law has been stepped down. Yes, I think I also shared that yesterday. The law has been stepped down. How will the bank know this transaction is a salary and not? Yeah, all these questions to do with the Cyber Act, guys, it's been stepped down. So I'm not sure we can deal with it. But usually banks will just code your transaction. If a bank wants to know if what you're paying is a check, they would code the transaction and say all checks that come this way would earn that fee. All checks that do not get coded as a salary or transfer from bank to bank will pay. That's essentially how they will do it. But it's still going to be messy because at the point of paying, if I say I'm paying my mom's salary, that means I don't pay, right? So that means everybody's going to say they're paying their mom or their girlfriend's salary. So if I have a girlfriend, I simply employ her into my company, and every month I pay her salary. Then, of course, the aim of the tax is defeated. And that's what you're going to have. You would have seen going forward. You've got to, there are just too many taxes. That's the point. And we are taxing too much because we have a bloated, inefficient government. That's what's going on. So, guys, thanks. Keep those comments coming. I appreciate it. God, come on, guys. You don't have to. You don't have to go there. Thank you so much. Let me read this one. CIT tax rates. Yeah. Good point. Good point you're making. Someone is saying that the company income tax rates have not increased in Nigeria. So companies rates, what they are paying for taxes in Nigeria has not gone up. I see the point you're making, yes. But if a company's tax rate has stayed the same, but the company is paying more for bulk transfer, for PMS, for diesel, it's paying for the cyber tax, it's paying for what's it called? The NIT, Nigerian what's their name? The guy that do telecom, whatever. If it's paying all these taxes and rates and fees, but the actual tax rate has stayed the same, that's a bit deceptive, because the cost of doing business in Nigeria is rising, but if you just look at the tax rate, it's staying the same. It's deceptive. So to say that the tax rates and the corporate income tax in Nigeria have stayed the same, hence the cost of doing business in Nigeria has basically stayed the same, that's going to be wrong in a way, because you've got to look at the total cost of doing business. Those businesses are paying lots of taxes. Let me give you something. Telecom companies, they have this association called ATCON, right? Telecom. Those guys are being charged about 40 different taxes, 40 different taxes. They are being charged things like effluent. Telecom company, effluent. Where's the effluent? They are taxed things like mast permit, mast height permit, ecology for telecoms. They are charged things like fire service, ozone. So your telephone bill in Nigeria has not gone up because they've told telecom companies not to increase taxes. So look at what's going on. MTN, Glo, and the rest, their costs have gone up because they are paying a lot of taxes to the government and fees and levies to local states. But the federal government has told them not to increase the cost of your telephone lines. So what would happen if tomorrow they ask them to charge cost-reflective tariffs on your phone lines? How many of us will be able to use phones in Nigeria? So you see the point I'm making, that most of these costs that you have in Nigeria, you can't afford anything in Nigeria that's in dollars. You can't. And the telecom is a key part of it. If they charge the real cost that they charged to make you be able to place calls in Nigeria, many Nigerians will not be able to pay. And that's the point about the taxes. But the government has taxed them and has asked them not to increase their tariffs on their phone. So this makes it impossible for us to know the real cost of telecom. So it's a subsidy, but the telecom guys are paying. The telecom guys now say they can no longer run operations without the taxes. So something has got to give. And that's the point about taxes. You can't keep on increasing taxes for IGR. It's not possible. The economy will fall and collapse under its weight. I think Winston Churchill said you can't get into a bucket and lift the bucket. So you can't raise IGR in the same economy where taxes are going up and wages have stayed flat. Something has got to give. So let's leave that CIT tax. The tax rates are the same, but the levies, the fines, the other non-corporate income tax issues have also gone up. And that's why many people in the companies that live in Nigeria, it is just too expensive to do business in Nigeria. That's the point. We've got to really bring down the cost. And I'm going to talk about that import substitution in a while. But let me, again, so guys, anything to do with the cyber security text is stepped down for now. So no point talking about it. I was really going to talk about that whole tax this whole week, but it's been stepped down. So that's a victory for all the folks that commented about it. Lots of folks came out and said it was illegal, step it down, and the government has stepped it down. So the cybersecurity tax as of today is stepped down. Let's hope that others would go as well. McDonald's, thank you for waiting. What's on your mind, sir?
Okay, boss. Good evening, Carlo, or would I call it Doc or Prof? You're doing well. It's making us enlightened and prompting us to issues because most of whenever I come to your timeline, I always see current issues, and from there I will take up more. Okay, on the topic, first of all, I want to ask the question, even though the answer may be glaring. Yes. When you say overtax, do you mean the amount of tax or the number of tax? Because why I ask that question is, if it's the amount of tax, I think it's high. Now, if you say the number of tax, it's okay, because even abroad, almost everything you're taxed on it. But the point is, you don't tax people that have very low income, and you should tax people based on the rate of their income. You don't just blanket a tax on the people without considering. Like, let me say, for instance, when they said there is hike in the tariff on electricity, they grouped it band A and band others, forgetting that there's no way you can actually separate the people that live in any band, because Nigeria is a mixed environment. Even the environment you say it is for the bourgeois, if you go into the bourgeois, I don't even know if there's actually a distinction between the classes and the areas where they live, because even if you go to the highbrow areas, you still see their service staffs, their house helps, their whatever, still living and operating around them there. And those ones also are affected with whatever classification you give in such area, based on tariffs and taxes and levies or whatever you call it, because all these names all boil down on what you give back to the government. And you can't be giving back, government cannot be demanding from you. Like that, let me just tell us something. I don't mean to digress in my submission, but there's something I need to also point out to us, because there are something I was analyzing with somebody at that time. See, there are natural disasters, and there are human disasters or government disasters. Nigeria, we are so blessed that most of the times, or over a period of time, we don't experience natural disasters. But here we have human-induced disaster, because all these things that our government and leaders are bent on doing to the society, is it not a disaster? You cannot be taxing. Okay, let's say the taxes on road usage, on vehicle licenses. When the roads are very bad, you're increasing the licenses, the amount of money to get a license for your vehicle to move on the road. But at the same time, after the person pays such high money to the government to get such a license or permit, now the person flies on that road and the roads are filled with potholes. So he spends a lot of money maintaining his vehicle, and also paying you high rates of taxes. So I don't get it. Like, in advanced countries where things are good, you may even drive your car. Like, I'll give you an example. There was the time I was fixing my motor hub. That hub keep grinding. One day I was in the mechanic. One man also came to service his car, and I was complaining to the mechanic about the hub. The man was surprised that what does hub mean. I was explaining to him. He said that he lives in the US for years, that he doesn't know what is called hub.
Now the mechanic explained to him that this hub keeps grinding, especially when the car flies in muddy area, always swims in the water and all that. And this are I've changed that hub like that was the third time. So when the road or the environment are making me spend such an amount of money, am I not also indirectly overtasked?
No, I mean,
That's the point I'm
to answer your first question about is it number, and you said is it the number of taxes, and I think it's both of them. It's both of them. If you live in the states, what do you pay tax on? You pay tax on income to the federal or state in some instances. If you stay, you always pay federal. Then you pay your state, you pay Medicare, you pay payroll, you pay all that stuff. But it's known. You know exactly what you are paying. I think the problem in Nigeria is that you can wake up today and your office is shut down because you didn't pay wheelbarrow tax or you didn't pay smoked fish tax. It does come from nowhere. They think of entertainment tax, road closure tax, gutter is dirty tax. It just comes out of nowhere. And those things are not recorded in your books. You can't get a tax credit. You see, you can pay tax, and as a business, you can put that tax in your books as a cost of doing business and then claim it as a tax credit. So if I'm paying a tax to local government, I should be able to say, oh, this is my cost of doing business. And then when I run my tax for the whole year, I don't pay, it reduces my taxable income. Or in Nigeria, it doesn't occur because those taxes are really illegal. You can't write in your books that you paid Agboro or that you pay a tax that is not recorded with a joint tax board. That's the problem in Nigeria. So in the telecom companies, the market are thinking that, for example, all those 40 taxes they pay are not recognized in the joint tax board. They are not recognized that a telecom company should pay, for instance, effluent. So the MTN and the so will eat that tax as a cost of doing business, but they can't claim it back as a cost of doing business. That's the problem in Nigeria. So it's number and it's also the amount. The CIT, our corporate income tax is the same across the board. And Nigeria has a big advantage. If you are looking for investors, you reduce taxes, you don't increase them. We seem to be, we jump and we say we want to, they should tax them. We should be reducing taxes, making it even zero. If you make your tax zero and a company comes, won't they eat? Won't they get water? Won't they rent a house to stay? That's how you get your money from them. So if you say you want a company, you know what, last year, Michael, we're trying to tax Twitter to come to Nigeria. And we're saying they should pay tax, register. That's a bad approach. The better approach is to tell Twitter, if you come to Nigeria, the next 10 years, you don't pay any taxes. Twitter will come to Nigeria. Won't they buy server? Won't they hire people? All those folks are going to be in Nigeria. Look at Microsoft now. They are leaving Nigeria. If Microsoft leaves Nigeria, that office is not going to be, they won't use it to the maximum use. So we're losing that revenue from there. I'm sure right now Nigeria would prefer to say, okay, stay in that place, just have a presence and pay reduced taxes. I'm sure we would take that offer from Microsoft. So tax is a strategy. We can't look at tax as revenue generation only. It's a strategy. If you want to get someone to come to your house, you just make it sweet. You say, okay, if you come here, you pay lower taxes. That's what we need to do. It's got to be a way to drive business, not a way to tax and milk business. Just the example I gave you, Mark, I paid those 10 taxes before I started working. Before I opened the office. Like, the office was opened with a banner, and all those tax people came before we had 1 full year of operations. So business tax, you paid business tax. I paid TV and radio. I paid parking. I paid signboard. I paid sewage. I paid borehole, generator, effluent. I called 10 last time. What is environment? I'm missing the 2, but I paid almost 10 of this before 12 months of doing business. And that's the point, McDonald's, yeah? What do you think?
Yeah, I get you now. You remember in our last piece when we were talking about FDI?
Yeah.
These are one of the things I was trying to point out then. Am I online?
Yes, you are.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, these are one of the things I was trying to point out then.
when they do this kind of blunder in their monetary policies, is scaring people away.
Yeah.
Like from what you're explaining, what you're trying to explain here, they should actually think of the way they can handle these policies so that it will bring employers into the society, into Nigeria, because there is a way they can differentiate the taxes the manufacturers or the job givers pay and the taxes that the workers, that's an average Nigerian, because some people may not be manufacturing or may not be producing or giving any services, but just that they work in the civil service or they work in the private sector. You understand? They pay taxes in from their salary, from the things they buy, VAT and all that. Now, but if they tax most of these, your senator, if they tax these manufacturers or companies so high, the companies will indirectly maybe downsize in their workforce or pack up eventually.
Yeah,
and the same thing, nobody, no gain.
You have a good example, McDonald's. You have GlaxoSmithKline. What did they do? They left Nigeria, but they bring their business to an individual. So that individual is going to import their goods from UK to Nigeria, and that individual will know how he will pay the import. Maybe Glasgow can't break any laws, but that's what they've done, which is exactly what you're saying.
It's really unfortunate that I don't want to call names, but everybody knows it. The people at the helm of our affairs are the people that have very wrong mindset of management. Because I don't know, somebody was quoting Margaret Thatcher the other time. You don't.
Yeah, I hear you, McDonald's. I mean, and again, I'm just talking to my friend that is talking to me on the Twitter timeline about Social Security. Social Security is financed by payroll tax. No argument. The point we're making is that all taxes in the US, if you group all the US taxes together, the number one source that they spend the money on is on Social Security. That's the point we're making. If you group all the taxes in Nigeria together, so you group CIT, you group VAT, you group all money the federal government gets together, the bulk of the spending, 95% of that spending, goes to salaries or overheads and pensions of civil servants. That's the difference I'm saying. US spends on Social Security for all Americans. Nigeria is spending on 95% for only civil servants. Gregory, your hand is up, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, sir.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. As far as this question is concerned, I will always say we are overtaxed. Why? Because I doubt, I'm not troubled about, but I doubt you will see a country where we are taxed without representation like Nigeria. Every given day we pay one form of the tax or the other. When there are markets in this country where if you go and buy things, I've been to a market in a state where I went to buy things. I bought the things, I'm the buyer, I dropped my load, and people came to meet me that I had to pay for dropping my load on the road. I'm not even talking of the seller now, I'm talking of me as a buyer. So it's so annoying and so frustrating. Then let's take this new tax that was proposed. Thank God it's come. He asked a simple question and nobody seemed to have answered the question. You are telling us to pay cyber security tax. And on Twitter every other day, we hear of people stealing phones. The person is not supposed to know your password. The person is not supposed to be able to log into your account without the token. But somehow, you will steal a phone, you'll be able to get the password, you'll be able to log into the account without an hardware token, you'll be able to transfer the money out of the account, and the banks will tell you they can't do anything about it. Now, I ask the question, if I'm paying cyber security tax, because it's a tax whether you like it or not, and from my calculation, let's say I do a transaction of like 3 million naira in a month, in a year, that's like 15,000 naira or something. How much? Yeah, about 15,000 in cybersecurity tax. Is there any insurance that is going to insure me when they break into my account and steal my money, or if they break into my account and steal my money? This is where taxation without representation comes in. If you are telling me I'm going to pay a levy, yet by adventure somebody steals my phone, and of course it's never the fault of the bank, it's never their fault. Everybody always gives out their opinion as far as the bank is concerned. But if that happens and somebody steals my phone and is able to access my account, for paying cyber security tax, am I protected? So there's practically no protection at an individual level, but the tax body was supposed to be on me. So it's quite annoying. It's really, really frustrating. I can't seem to fathom a country where we are taxed so heavily without any representation on anything. This is where one day I sat down to calculate only the taxes that this what do they call it? This government or parastatal or states of government collect from tricycles, from buses, from keke. We are not supposed to have any issue with road at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, Gregory.
Only what they collect from keke, from bicycles, from tricycles, from bikes, from cars. Nigeria has no problem. Or Nigeria should have no issue doing the rules. But here we are paying taxes, we are misrepresented like mad. Then even at the local level, there's one I was arguing today. They brought up something in my state and they said it's a federal program, and they said it must be as in the what do they call it? The beneficiaries of the program must be from a specific must be from the local, as in the geopolitical zone of the area. Then I ask the question: are you telling me if as a non-indigenous I live in an area, I pay taxes on the area, I do everything on the area, all my business, I run my business on the area, then a federal project comes or a federal support program comes, are you telling me that as a non-indigenous, having stayed there, having done my activities here, I cannot apply for the program because I'm not from there? Then why is it a federal program? So this is how at the state level we are still being denied representation, because I can be told, I can live somewhere, I can be told, you are not from here, so you can't partake of this federal program or federal support program, and it's kind of annoying. So for me, we are overtaxed just because of the fact that we literally have no representation for our taxes. Thank you very much.
I think you make a good point, Gregory, when you ask that is there a fund to have compensated the consumer? Because look at it this way, because it was originally written for businesses, the businesses were not maybe about 50. They would have been able to manage that process to compensate or to watch that business online portfolio. But when you make it consumers, that means if I'm paying for that service, I should be able to have a recourse should I not get this service. So you're making a good point that if this law had passed, perhaps there should have been a fallback mechanism for the consumers to say, I paid, but I still got ripped up, so I want to get insurance cover, things like that. So good point on that. So and I think it's good that it has been scrapped. And again, this point of taxation without representation, also on that valid point they are making. If you pay a tax, it gives you the not just you have the right to demand for accountability and action that comes to you. If you pay tax to your local government, the local government then works for you. It's not the other way around. They collect taxes, they must deliver services to you because you are paying. So good point there on taxation with representation. Sonny, your hand is up. What's going on?
Yeah, Mr. Kano. Yeah, I don't want to divert our attention for your topic, but I know there was the other day we was talking about the way Nigeria was structured. I was in your space, and like I contribute like, do you think this task will ever be very effective? Because if you look the way Nigeria is structured, it's like very centralized, not like America that we only talk about. I mean, you can see a company would just from Abuja come to a state and say that they will send by federal, so the state don't have any right to ask them any tax. The reason why I'm just one of button here is the fact that just little way you were saying that if local government collect the tax from you, the local government should use the tax. They should use it for the local government, right? And also with the state and the federal. But we see that a lot of companies, they are not even federal or state, So I don't. That's why I say I don't want to divert our attention. But the way Nigeria structure, because of we run is very centralized, not like in America whereby if you pay local government, which is the accounted your tax, they use it for their accounted. And if you pay for states, they use it. Federal also use it. So you know where your money is going. So but I mean that's why I say let me just ask you. So do you think our tax will ever be efficient, even if maybe we kind of let's reduce it for the bottom, let's just trickle it down.
Yeah.
We ever be
I think I get question you're asking. So Nigeria on paper is a federal republic, but in terms of fiscal terms, it's more or less a unitary state. If you look at the way taxes are structured in Nigeria, the federal government has the sole powers to administer the collection and also the rates of taxes in the country. What I mean is this: the federal government collects VAT. They're not supposed to. VAT is supposed to be a state tax only. The state should be able to collect VAT on its own and set its own rates on its own. But the federal sets VAT rates and the federal collects those VAT and then distributes across Nigeria using a federal formula, which is wrong because VAT is a consumption tax. People can't consume in Kwara and you distribute it to Abia. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
That's there's not a bunch of people.
And then the other one again you want to talk about is to say in terms of not just the VAT, but in terms of how we then even spend. Look at the Nigerian constitution. Local governments, right? Local governments are they control states in Nigeria, right? So sorry guys, yeah. So local governments, for instance, control primary schools in Nigeria. Local governments control primary schools in Nigeria, but in Nigeria, the federal government pays salaries for these teachers. So what you didn't have is that there's a mismatch between the local government and the schools. If the local governments collect property tax, which is what they're supposed to collect, then they can have very good schools. So you can see there's going to be a tie-in with where you live and the quality of the schools. So there's going to be competition between I want to move to Agege because Agege has a very, very good school district. That's how it's supposed to be. So the Nigeria was treating that the local government take care of the primary, but now if you go to local governments, they don't do anything. They literally don't do anything. Look at River State, where they are saying, oh, you have to hold your session in the state and all that. So they really don't do anything per se, and that's the problem that you have. The country has to restructure itself. It has to restructure itself. You cannot have only the federal government taxing the incomes of companies. It won't work. You've got to allow the states attract investments into the state, and then they can then tax those companies they've attracted. If the federal government alone can attract companies, then the states do not have any incentive to attract workers or to attract companies to the states. That's why the pyramids in the north disappeared. In the 1970s, before 1970, the states and the regions retained the revenues that came from their export of the cash crops. So the north of Nigeria retained the revenues when they exported groundnuts. The east retained rubber and palm oil. The west retained cocoa. So you saw Awolowo built cocoa house with the revenues from cocoa because the western region got the revenues directly. If you exported goods from Lagos, you paid excise duties to Lagos, not to the federal government. You paid excise duties to Lagos. So Lagos had an incentive to make their ports perfect. Western House was building cocoa house, NTA, because they were exporting cocoa. the money was coming back in. Same with the Eastern region, same with the North. The North was the number 3 in terms of exports of peanuts in the entire world. But when the military came in 1970, they introduced what we called FARC. And all FARC said is, it says, if you do any economic activity, you have to pay that money to a central purse, and then we, the military, will share that central purse across Nigeria. So what happened? You then had a situation whereby the Northerners then found out that there was no point growing groundnuts anymore, because if they grow groundnuts, the money goes to everywhere else. So they focused on crude oil. It's not the oil per se that caused the North to forget peanuts. It's the fact that if you simply invest in agriculture, you don't get the revenues. That's what really happened. So you took away the revenues from the state and local government and took it to the federal government. And of course, because everything is federal, then nobody owns it. And that's why you have this mismatch of taxation, of representation. We're not incentivizing the states and local governments to go and create businesses. We are not. We're allowing the federal government to do everything. That's what you have. So I hope I answered the question, Sonny. That's sort of giving you a taste. We've got to do a lot of reorganization in Nigeria. What we have today can't work.
Yeah, absolutely. You did answer my question. That will be coming. That's what was. So please, hold on. Let me just talk here. I will just run on a minute. Sorry. Yeah, that what we also analyze when I was your space, like the way Nigeria structure at the moment. I don't think it's going to be like effective for any task or whatsoever. Like you just said, I totally agree with you, and I mean that's what is make Nigeria to be developed, because of everybody now just wait for federal government, because federal government property doesn't belong to nobody, so nobody take ownership of it. So that's the reason why Nigeria is just the way it is today. I think we have to get back where we come from, and we'll know that we're able to run the country. Thank you, Karen, for this. What you just said.
You're welcome. Gregory, real quick, then I'm going to get IMA in your room. Gregory, real quick, so I can move on. Gregory, well, go ahead.
So I just want to play the devil's advocate. Yes, for a limited company, while your company income tax is paid to the federal, there's also a portion of taxes that is paid to the states, and that is the personal income taxes.
No. Hold up, Greg, don't get it wrong. The personal income tax is the payroll tax of the individual worker, not the company.
So we pay you.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. But that's not of the company, that's of the individual. So if
I'm not arguing that now. What I'm trying to say is this. I know that's why I say I want to play the devil's advocate. There was a time I calculated the payee. I tried to do a rough analysis, and the payee is quite significant compared to what the company. I'm not saying it's not, the company isn't bigger, but for a lot of companies, the payee is significant, and two, more importantly, the payee is constant. There are years companies will not make profits. They won't pay taxes if you don't make profits. But there's no year you operate a business and you won't pay payee. My issue is this: even with the payee, the government, the state government, they don't do what they are supposed to do with the payee. That's issue number one. Because yes, once again, I know the federal government is crazy about my opinion is this: you do something with the little you are having. If you do it, then we can come defend you. But in a situation where almost all the payee goes to voicemail, well, that's justice.
Let's put it this way, right? If I set up a company in Abia State, my head office is in Abia State, right? And so that means I pay my income according to the way it's supposed to be. Let's say what's happening right now. If I have a company set up in Abia State, the company is in Abia State, and I make ₦1 billion and I employ 1,000 workers, I pay the ₦1 billion taxes to the federal government, and I pay the 1,000 payroll tax to the state government. That's how it is right now. The way it's supposed to be, like I'm saying, is this: that ₦1 billion income tax should be shared between the federal and the state. The state should tax the company in Abia, so that the state can get revenues because the company is making revenues from Abia. Number two, look at the oil service companies. They have their head office in Lagos, but they have the oil fields in Akwa Ibom, Rivers, Ondo, Abia, Imo, where else? Bayelsa. Where is the HR? Where is the human resources, the PE? Where is it? It's in Lagos. Where are the physical workers? It's in the 13 states of the Federation that are oil producing states. So the payroll tax will go where? Lagos. Not Akwa Ibom, Ondo, Imo, Abia, Bayelsa, Rivers. See the point I'm making? Where the head office is in Nigeria is usually where they calculate the payee. So you have to do the payroll tax.
Is that law? Because the last time I thought
it's not matter of no, it's not matter of the law. It's where they write those checks. Where they write the checks is they have an office in Akwa Ibom. Even if you say it's not law, if you say okay, Akwa Ibom, who is in Akwa Ibom to write the check for the payee in Akwa Ibom? It's all in Lagos or Abuja. If you look at your Nigeria's FDI, what do you see? The bulk of the FDI comes to Lagos and Abuja. All it means that the banks are in Lagos and Abuja. That's really what it means, that the banks are in Lagos and Abuja. So the money comes in, is recorded based on the bank. You see a few recorded in the states. Because those ones came in, the state will say, oh, it came into us. Like Sokoto got Bua. That's this guy, Bua. But I am sure it's because the man wanted to record as Sokoto. Where is Bua's head office? Where is Dangote's head office? So you've got to make these things. Where you make the income is where you pay the taxes. That's the point I'm making. So that way, if state incentivize you, according to the data, the best state in Nigeria to do business today is Gombe State. So Gombe State has got according to the ease of doing business, they have the best laws, the best infrastructure to do business in Nigeria. But nobody was going to go to Gombe. It doesn't make any sense to go to Gombe because the same pay I pay in Lagos is what I'll pay in Gombe. Gombe can reduce its pay, but it can't go more than the 5. But if you allowed everyone to set their own rates, then states will start to compete. You see, like Florida and New York. Florida can be Gombe. New York can be Ogun. Ogun State, for instance, can say we're going to reduce our payee taxes to attract workers from Lagos to move to Ogun State, which is what they do right now. Move to Ogun State, they can build a railway from Ogun State right to the border of Lagos State. So workers can do a big car park and drop. Park your car in Ogun State, ride a train to Lagos, walk, go back to Ogun State. The taxes go to Ogun State. They take advantage of the fact they are near Lagos. Same way Mexico is near America. But the tax has got to be an incentive scheme. It can't be just IGR. It just can't be I want to raise revenues, so I'll do taxes. No, you use your taxes as a strategy, to attract something to come to you. That's really the point I'm going to grab. Thanks. I am Ero. Hi, how you doing? I was here. I am Ero. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for the conversation. Good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are good. Yes, are Nigerians overtaxed? The truth is, I don't think so. But there are some fundamental issues that needed to be addressed. And if you would allow me, let me just quickly go through it. Number one is underemployment. A lot of Nigerians are not well remunerated. And when you have that, then it becomes very difficult to pay tax. And that is why the very rich who employs a whole lot of people in Nigeria are very rich. It's a fundamental issue that we've been ignoring and neglecting and will not be addressing. It's time that it's addressed. That is one. The number two thing is the incapacitation of the local government. The local government, which you were mentioning, the state governors have rendered them useless. You get? They've rendered them useless. That they decide when the election takes place. They decide if there's going to be an election. They decide when there's going to be an election.
Sure.
They decide who gets elected. They decide how much they get. It's that bad.
Yeah.
They can give a form of excuse, but that's that. And the number three thing that I think we should also address now is that the social structure for those who are vulnerable. Because a lot of people who are paying tax now, a lot of people that are going to eat any levy that will come into play, a lot of people that will pay it are the same set of people that are taking care of the vulnerables in their family. The old age, the ones that are blind, the ones that are crippled, the ones that are unemployed, the one that doesn't have scholarship, all of those fees have to be paid by these people that are underpaid. You see, but in many other times, South Africa, for example, you have social structure taking care of these people. Now the problem now lies in if you're going to tax the same people who are taking care of the vulnerable, then it becomes an epic issue. And that is why you see that the richest guy in South Africa is paying tax more than the billionaires in Lagos, all of them put together. It's impossible for that to happen. And that is why you see that their IGR seems to be bigger than ours. Why? Because they are, and we take into the last one, the efficiency of the tax system. It's messed up. It's not efficient. So if we can address that, then we realize that really, we are not, because if your dustbin get taken care of, your street light get taken care of, the road leading to your street get taken care of, the trust will be there. So the disconnect between the people and the government is the reason why people are complaining that even the one that we have paid, what have we done with it? Thank you.
Yeah, but the question I want to ask is, you say Nigerians. You don't think Nigerians are taxed? Did I get that right?
Yeah, you asked me, are Nigeria overtaxed? And I said no. The truth, why I'm saying no, is that when you compare the variables, how we are being taxed compared to how other countries are being taxed, we are not overtaxed. But many Nigerians that are paying tax are labored with so many burdens that should be shouldered by the government.
Yeah,
They have, you get my point now.
yes,
So
but I still
that's
don't. Sorry again too, because I'm just saying that I just listed myself. I had an office in Ikoyi, listed my taxes to you 10. This is before we even got one customer. And
okay.
look, the point I think is this, right? If you take the legal taxes a Nigerian company or a Nigerian individual pays, it's very, very low. Very, very low. That's why if you look at our debt to GDP, it's very, very low. But you and I know, like people have said here, I went to the market in K2, they told me once you put your umbrella on the ground to sell goods, you have to pay for the umbrella, you pay for the land that you're going to put that goods in, you pay for it per day. You pay per day to the local government and to the quote unquote boys and so. When you bring in your goods on the wheelbarrow, you pay for that. The wheelbarrow guy will pay to bring his goods. No, that's your yam. You pay for that wheelbarrow to drop that in there. You get. If your customer comes to buy the yam from you, your customer will pay to transport that yam from your umbrella to the road to put in his car. This is not to pay for the barrow guy. I'm saying you will pay a tax to carry the yam from that store to the road. And these are not these taxes are not, they're not recorded anywhere. So it's easier for a guy to go to, if you go to ShopRite, you don't pay those taxes. And ShopRite is imported. So what happens that the local goods guys?
Can I come?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, can I come in? There is the problem of remittance in the tax collection in Lagos. That's what you're talking about, K2. But you see, the things that you have itemized that are being taxed in Lagos, it's not the same in other local government. Are you getting me? As a matter of fact, if you try to initiate some of those tax systems in some local government, they will make sure, they will cry out and make sure that they make it so uncomfortable for you and remind you, we will remove you. And I'm talking about, for example, a classical example in Ondo State. When the new tax regime was being put in place, they were telling them, and the government has to back down a bit on some of the tax system that was put in place. So my point is, in Lagos, it's a different ball game. That is about remittance to the government. And that is where I think one thing you have mentioned in one of your tweets before, which is they need to go digital in this remittance. They need to find a way to do it. And I think Abia or some other state did it already. So that needs to be done. And Lagos, okay, if we are saying Lagos is overtaxed, maybe we should say Lagos. Okay, but I still do not believe that even at that they are being overtaxed. I feel that the remittance, if the money are remitted and it's being used properly, I don't think so.
Yeah, but what
I
I'm
mean,
saying is that,
rather
yeah, but what I'm saying that the taxes itself, the itself,
okay,
forget if it's remitted, forget about the remitted. I'm saying that the taxes itself are overbearing, and that's what I'm saying. That you are paying for. Let me give you again for me, business license, local and state. That's two. That's business license, local and state, radio and television. Then the dish, you pay for the mast for the dish. I paid for it. Then I paid for my septic tank. I paid for the gutter, the whatever, the not septic, the dustbin. I paid for that. I paid for fire service. I paid for parking. I paid for signage.
I pay for sewage.
I pay for environmental. I didn't have a tree in front of my office. So I have to pay for to fight the ozone layer. These are 10 taxes. Has nothing to do with my income. I didn't mention payee. I didn't mention property tax. Not that I removed those ones. This is just the taxes I paid because once I unveil the office, there's a sign there. They will come to you and give you your taxes. Fire service came to the inspection. They call it fire whatever inspection. I don't have a lift. To put fire extinguisher, I paid fire service. They'll come and look at it and they will tax you. Sewage, I don't have the sewage, but they'll say it's passing underneath your place, so you have to put air vent. And it just, I don't have a tree, it's a built up area. I can't plant a tree, it's a built up area. Okay, put potted plant. What will potted plant do to the ozone layer? We don't care. Or you pay 150,000. But it's not the remittance, it's that it's a lot. So before I even start business day one, I've already paid taxes. My friends that do business in Lekki phase one, they have absolutely no signboard in front of their office because they want to avoid taxes. But they are doing IT, so they don't need a signboard. They are online. I am doing consumer. I want people to know where I am, so I can't avoid that. If you go to Lekki phase one, every house there is doing a business. Every house there. Some have signs, some don't have signs.
Just a quick one before so that I can jump and other people can come in also. My question to you is this. You are speaking about Lagos, right? So I think we should itemize Lagos and away from other states now because what you are saying doesn't exist in many other states in Nigeria.
Oh, it's
So
worse.
now let's
It's
focus.
worse in other states. In Onitsha, for instance, I mean,
Maybe in Onitsha, but
the
I'm
popular
talking about home.
in,
Okay,
in,
to be precise now, okay, there are a lot of businesses, that are not being taxed the way people are taxed in Lagos. One, there are a lot of businesses in Ondo that are not being taxed the way you are being taxed right now in Lagos. And I think it explains why the IGR of Lagos is that big, right? But I want to ask you a fundamental question, which is, would you say the service that you are being provided in Lagos is proportional to the tax that you pay so far, in your estimation?
there's no
Are
there's,
people not breaking Lagos?
let me answer that question. There is no local government area in Nigeria that you can put the taps on and drink the public water or give it to your baby. There is none in 774 local governments in Nigeria. There is none where you can put the taps on and give that water to your baby or drink yourself. There is none. There is no local government in Nigeria that has got even 18 hours of power. There is no local government in Nigeria that has drains that are not blocked. Maybe Abuja, maybe. So these are just basics that I said for you: water, power. There is no local government in Nigeria where you can sit outside your house by 1 a.m. and smoke a cigarette. 1 a.m. There is none. Even in Maitama, even in Ikoyi, there is none. So these are basic.
Can I offer a solution statement in a minute so that I run?
Sure.
Okay. Have you guys in that area, for example, have you guys decided on having a meeting, come up with a communique, and make your demand as taxpayers
To
to the
who?
government in that local government?
It's not the local government to provide water, power, or security. That's where I'm going to.
I mean, for all my point is this. I'm paying this money, and if I'm paying this money, for example, when you pay the light, the water, and every other things in South Africa, for example, and any of these things is not provided, right? immediately, once you lodge a complaint and you are in that area where you have top quality services, they respond to you. If it's your water, if it's your sewer, if it's your light, they respond to you same day and fix it. The potholes in those areas are quick to be fixed than in some other areas that you don't have, all these companies and this and that and that. So my point is, I feel that, don't you think that you guys should have a meeting and table your question, meet them at the media, meet them at the House of Assembly, meet them wherever, and make this demand legitimately on document, on paper, on the memo.
No, bro. So again, this is the former conversation we're having with, was it Sonny or so? He was talking about the way Nigeria is structured. This is the point I'm making. If Nigeria was structured properly, like you're saying, like we had the local government, we have the state and the federal, then what you're saying would make sense. You can write to your county. Where I live in the US sometime, part of the year, in my county, the local government will send me their budget. This is what they want to spend money on. And they will ask me to vote. They want to do a new library, they want to fix it. I vote on how they spend their money in the county. Then I see them doing the thing I voted for next year. I see it with my physical eyes. So I know where my taxes go from my pocket to county to road. In Nigeria, it doesn't work that way. We have a federal government, then we have a state government. Local governments do not exist in Nigeria. So the point I'm making is that we have to restructure the country, not just in terms of the fiscal federalism. What's fiscal federalism? That the state, local, and federal are all separate fiscal entities. It's already in constitution. Nigeria states that the primary schools are in charge of, are under the control of the local government, which means that the property tax which the Lagos state and other state governments collect is not supposed to be collected by the state government, but by the local government. So if you have Moshi local government and Limosh local government collecting property taxes, they then use it for health and education because they are local government. They can't buy defense, they can't do foreign affairs. It has to be local, and that's how it's structured that way. But in Nigeria, the primary schools are funded by the federal. The NUT will go on strike if today you say you want to take them off federal funds. So the structure is wrong. And if you don't fix that structure, you can't fix the taxes. That's why the federal government can afford to spend 95% on only federal workers. Because it's off. It's off. You must fix the federalism. There you can then demand local governments create power. You can't ask local governments that are, look at River State, where they are paying, the governor says he wants to pay local government workers. Do you know in fact, local government workers have their direct allocation? Nigeria's oil money is shared according to what? Vertical and horizontal. Vertical and horizontal. How does Lagos State get money? Lagos State gets money by the population of Lagos State and the number of local governments Lagos State gets. So Lagos State with more population gets less revenues than Kano because Kano has more local government areas. And this is the problem of local government areas. You've got to, everything is tied in. Census, population, and FAC. This is the tripod Nigeria is built on. Census, which is the population, FAC, which is the oil sharing revenues, and the state. That's the tripod. So the Nigeria shares revenues according to land mass. That's nonsense. So it's like, look at how big Saudi Arabia is. Where do people live in Saudi Arabia? Just on the coast. So if Saudi Arabia is the Nigerian state, they'll get all the revenues because Nigeria will give you revenues according to land mass and population. So a state like Lagos that has the most population in Nigeria, everyone lives in Lagos, gets less revenues than Niger. That's gross revenues because Niger then gets more monies because of land mass and population. What Lagos catches because Lagos has IGR, and that IGR then comes via derivation back to Lagos. If you look at just the gross, the way its formula is set up, Lagos is getting less because they have a smaller land mass and less local government areas than say Niger State or Borno State or Katsina. So you got to fix all that, then the taxes make sense.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. So in conclusion, you are saying that we have no other way apart from, and that has to happen in conjunction with the state governors and all the current politicians that we have now.
Yeah, I mean,
In
you
the
gotta
event
fix.
that doesn't happen, then what?
You've got to fix, because Nigeria worked from 1960 to 1970. Go back to Nigeria, 1963, Nigeria was the fastest growing region on earth. From 1960 to 1963, fastest growing region on earth. What were we doing in 1960 to 1970 that made Nigeria grow? Number one, we had very regional centers where every region grew at its own pace. I've said this on Twitter before. If you have time, go and pull up the economic plan that was written for Northern Nigeria. This is an economic plan. The premier of Northern Nigeria, Samodo Bello, got the British to go to the entire north, and they wrote him a plan. That plan was to convert the north into what they would call, say, Ohio today. They ran an economy without crude oil, agriculture, agro-allied, even heavy industries. There are lots of industries in the north that if I call today, it will blow your mind. You go to Bauchi, what you call Bauchi today, Bauchi and Plateau are almost the same size. The industries in that Bauchi will blow your mind, from steel to aluminium to copper. It's all in there. They wrote everything. They built the railways, they built the grazing places. They were to supply cows to Saudi Arabia and all that kind of stuff. Then these army boys came, these kids came that were in army uniform, and they just threw away everything and went straight to oil. The North has never gone back to the plans of Samodo Bello. If they go back to that plan and they dust it up, no region had that detail that they had. None. It's there. It's not some. When was Northern Nigeria Development Company started? They had a building, full Northern Nigeria Development Company years ago. Skyscraper in Kaduna, it was there well before Cocoa House was built, right? But look at how the West caught up with them, because they took their eyes off the ball. So you've got to go back to regional. What one man ran as a region in the north and in the east and the south is what 20 governors are in today are making less revenues. Awolowo made more revenues per capita running a region than all the 6 governors today, plus Lagos, have made running 6 states. Nigeria has not built 1 million affordable homes since 1960 to date. Even add Lagos, 1 million. South Africa built nearly 2 million from after apartheid till date. All these things is because if we take our eyes off the ball, it's all federal. That's why elections are just a problem in Nigeria. Local governments are missing in the equation, and if you don't get them back into the fiscal picture, where local governments can tax property, you can't move your property. They know who owns the property. Tax the property, take the money, and fix the schools and the primary health care. Once you have that base, the states can then come in with guidelines, can come in with taxing companies that work in the states and providing then the connections between local governments. Then federal can then sit down at the top and do guidelines, policies, procedures, and do grants. Look at the way the US spends their money. The bulk of the money also goes to grants to states and local government areas. You can still want to do cancer prevention and you give grants to states. Let me close with this. Just give me the last example. Universal basic education. We have a fund that says that states have got to pay counterpart funds to UBE and then get money. Do you know that many states in Nigeria today have not paid counterpart funding to the UBE to get free money? This is free money. The government says, give us 1 naira, we'll give you 2 naira. Yeah, you give us 1 naira, we'll give you 2 naira. Many states are not giving 1 naira. Do you know the biggest culprit? Ogun State.
Yeah. Even the IGR is shocking.
Yeah, so you have to ask these questions. The federalization of everything, these taxes is a problem. No, we think we make money. The total money is, again, look on the pinch chart, guys. The total revenues that the federal government made in a quarter in Nigeria is nothing. We think we're a rich country. It's nothing. I put the figure up here. The actual revenue figures, I'll put it for you now in Naira and Kobo. So people think because we said 10%. The total actual revenues, if you take 2023 actual first quarter, 3 months, the total inflow we made total 1.2 trillion. This is oil, VAT, everything 1.2 trillion. The total revenues in 2020 Nigeria made in the first quarter 1.2 trillion. The total payroll that we make in Nigeria has been total payroll is about 978 billion. So this is just not pensions. Payroll alone is taking nearly 80% of the total revenues. That's why your taxes are so high. Because the government has no money. The country is technically broke. So every day they go to World Bank. No, I'm giving you the figures. Every day you hear World Bank, you hear VAT, you hear this tax, you hear that tax, because they don't have money. And they don't have money because they have a spending problem. Even the small revenues that they are getting, what they do with it, they are building a mansion for the VP. They are buying SUVs for National Assembly members. We have 2 broken down private jets outside Nigeria right now. The president's jet is broken down. The VP's jet is broken down. They are outside the country. Has Nigeria died? No. So that means you can do without those 2 jets and Nigeria will survive. But these are the issues. I'm linking the taxes to the wasteful spending, to the inefficient taxation. That's what I'm doing. The fiscal federalism to the inefficient spending to the overtaxing of the Nigerian consumers. It's all linked. You can't remove one from the other. Thanks, AJ. That was good conversation. Victor, what's on your mind, sir? Thank you, Eric. Victor, what's up? Victor going once. Genstar, what's happening? Genstar 155. How you doing, ma'am?
Good evening. Good evening to everyone. The issue of taxation, I'm not an economist, so I'm going to approach it from the very layman's terms. Anytime I get a chance to come on spaces and people are talking, I always try to bring whatever the issue is, one from the perspective of a woman, but also from the perspective of the poorest woman, not the middle class, not the educated, but sometimes the poorest woman. And I'll give an example and the reason why I do that. For example, when we were talking about water in the north and how I think 70% of the north do not have access to potable water, and people were arguing back and forth, making it about primordial sentiments. I said, think about a woman who's just giving birth, and there's no clean water to wash up those babies. Think about a woman who is a young girl who is 15. There's no potable water. They're fetching water from a stream, but she has a menstrual cycle and she needs water. I always try and bring these things from that perspective, because the issues, whether it's poverty or taxation, women always sort of experience it from a harsher, I don't know, the impact is always sort of worse on women. So having said that, let me come to the issue of taxation. I'm not even going to talk about federal, state, and local government. I'm going to talk about the informal sector and the poor market woman, poor trader, and how they are double, triple taxed. Think about a trailer that's coming from maybe Jos with tomato, and all the people in uniform who have to be sorted all the way from Jos. I'm going to use my state, Delta State, maybe all the way to Asaba, right? And all that money will be added on top. The increase in price of petrol is added on top, or diesel. Let's say it's diesel because it's a lorry, right? And then the diesel farm, the person at the petrol station had to be tipped to sell that tomato. Then maybe a basket of tomato, the big basket used to be 50K. Now, because of all of this informal tax, it's now 80K. So normally the way they do it in the market, because the tomato sellers will be like in some sort of union, so you don't necessarily pay cash to buy the tomato. You sort of take your tomato, you're within the union, you sell and you try and balance, sort of like a balance and take system. That's how I know they do it. Then that tomato gets to the market. As soon as that tomato crosses into Delta State, there's another set of taxation that starts. The market people will take theirs. The local government people will take theirs. They will tax that lorry as it's coming into Asaba. They will take, the local government will take their tax. They will give them one sort of receipt, tier one small receipt for them. Then there's another receipt for Delta State government. There's another receipt for Asaba. I don't know if it's on your master house. I can't remember the name of their local government. So that's two receipts. I'm not counting all the other ones they've paid. I'm just counting the ones they paid when they got into Delta State, right? And then that vehicle comes into Obogonogo market in Asaba. The market people have their own separate taxation, another receipt that they will cost for the person. Then the lorry will go to the back of the market where they offload the tomato, and then the tomato sellers people will cut, and then the community will cut their own community ticket. That's almost 4 tickets. That's within Delta. Then the woman will sell. As she's selling, you have the boys in the market who will go around and collect security money, collect environmental money. These are separate. And then she will sell. Going back home, again, taxi or bike, policeman will collect. So at the end of the day, I'm not even going to talk about the formal tax. I'm going to talk about the informal tax. How that many of these women, by the time they've gone through all of the informal taxation, they have nothing to show as the benefit for the taxation. It should be a two-way street, right? When you pay taxes, you should have services. I compare it to myself living here in the UK. I am taxed sometimes I feel like tax is coming out from my ears and everything, depending on whether I'm working maybe on a fixed job or I'm working as a contractor. Sometimes you pay almost 50%. There's a job I did last year, I was paying 47% taxes. It felt painful, but we don't, in my family, we then don't have to budget for public school because the public school is as good as private, depending on the town and the postcode you are in. All the books, I was just looking at my daughter, that all of her books are provided for in school. We out of our own choice, decide to pay for extracurriculars, for extra lessons for maths and English. That's separate. But primary school is covered by that, my 47% tax. She goes to, by the time she goes to secondary, goes to A levels, it's all covered. Healthcare is covered. I walked into the hospital, had my child 7 years ago, paid nothing. Nobody asked me to buy iodine, buy cotton wool like most of this market women. I know in Delta State it's free. To give birth is free. That was under Governor Dwa. I don't know if that health policy has been retained. I don't see the value that people derive, especially those informal taxation. I don't see the value that the women get. They have no creche in the market. The market stores are just a zinc over their head. If it's raining, the rain will be pouring on them because there are leaks in the zinc. So there's really nothing that these women get from all of the informal taxation. So let's not even talk about the state one and all of that stuff. There is no value. There is no value. That's why Nigeria is one of the places I would never put my money except things change. Are you doing that?
Well, that's a bit of reality for us to see. Where the rubber meets the road. Jen, thanks for that. Thanks for that. You are very right. These taxes sometimes sound highfalutin, fiscal federalism, but when you bring it really down to the fact that the woman gives birth and there's no water to wash the baby because there's no borehole, there's no pipe-borne water, there's no primary health care within 25 miles of where she gave birth, it really brings it home. You ask the question, where are all these taxes going to? And I'll give you the answer. It's going to salaries. But we have tons of funds up. This is just the federal government's own budget. We have independent revenues. Where are they? Nigeria is doing signature bonus oil leases. Where is the money going to? What's really going on in this country? We are taxing, and the people are getting poorer, and can't afford this. How can we say this? That in the entire 774 local government areas in Nigeria, not one has public water, reliable, clean, flowing from the taps. Not one. I don't want a street. I'm talking about the entire local government area. And how can that be a data point for a large exporter of crude oil? It's simply, there's a breakdown in governance, in the values, the roles of government to the citizens. It's completely broken down. There's no relationship between the taxes you pay and the services you get. We are celebrating 2024 governors building roads. A governor builds a road, he's a star. My state, Abia, I am thankful that the governor is building roads. But for crying out loud, it's a road. But I'm thankful because the last 3 governors did nothing. You think you've seen bad roads? There are bad roads in Abia that had a lake, like a mini lake on the road, with trees growing on the road. So it's man, I don't know. Dr. Adilaja, thank you, ma'am. Dr. Ade Laide Tinuke. Sorry.
The road was nation friendly. Nation friendly road.
It's just that Abia State is a different animal entirely. So when people are laughing at people praising Julius Becker, you guys don't understand what happened in Abia State. There was no governance for 24 years. Just imagine you had something that you parked the car for 24 years and you came back to that car. How would you see it? Doctor, you've got the mic. Dr. Adelaide Tinuke.
Yeah, good morning. Hello. I've been a fan for a while.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Well, I laughed. I googled when you talk about having a lake, and I said, why don't you just buy a canoe, and just paddle on the road?
Oh my God! Have you seen the pictures, Doctor? I'm not kidding. No, I'm not kidding about this lake matter. You see something that you know it's a road, but you don't know it's a road till they clear the road. Then you're like, oh my God, this was a 4-lane road in the 1960s, but it's there in Aba. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. Digging into this discussion, as someone that has at least traveled a little, I remember I did my master's in Canada, and I paid a little tax while I was working there, and I'm now in Australia, and I'm still paying tax. I'd say Nigerians are overtaxed based on what they get.
Sure.
You know, when you are, you can't pay for a Rolls Royce and you are given a Toyota Camry, right? That's how that is. You are paying for what you want to get. If you're paying tax, you are expecting good roads, you're expecting to have clean potable water, you're expecting to have power, right, uninterrupted. You are expecting to have low income houses, you know. But then in Nigeria, what you get the president gets to buy a yacht. The member house of get to buy SUVs, and then they get to do get houses for the vice president, and then the first lady gets to have an office and get to have an SUV. These are what we're paying taxes for in Nigeria, and it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't.
I have a couple of investments in Nigeria. I have guest houses, hotels. I have a small hospital in Oshogo, right? And all of this, I know how much. Like sometimes I want to shout at my mother when she calls because she's literally managing most of this investment. And then when she calls, she says, some people came, they said they're from LCDA, they said you pay 20,000. Some people came, they said they're from Ministry of Interior, they said you pay 250,000. And I'm like, what is all this? I pay, the amount I pay in a year, it's almost as if they want the business to fold up. There is no encouragement for doing what you are doing. The country is not encouraging you. The government are not coming to say, my twin brother is building a hospital, and when he got to the decking level, some people came and said he cannot deck until he pays 2 million. Why? You cannot put a decking until you pay 2 million. To who?
What?
Right? And then he went to meet the upper of the KPAC in that area, And he talked to them. He said, look, I am building this hospital not because I am hungry, not because I need your money. I am doing this because I want to help. I am building dialysis center. I am building a cardiothoracic surgery center because I see that people are sick, don't have hospitals to go to. Instead of looking for money to pay for flights and all of those headache, let me bring it home. That's what I'm doing. If you people do not want this, I will sell this property and go back to where I came from. Right? And then that was when they now reconsider and said, okay, you know what, just pay 350. And I'm still like, why do you still have to pay? There is no subsidy. If you're in Canada and you are building a hospital, the government subsidizes the material for you. The NGOs come and say, okay, we'll give you the CAT machine, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. Nothing. Instead, you're paying more. So Nigerians are overtaxed in every aspect of their lives. Everywhere they are over. You are literally almost about to pay for the air you breathe and for trekking across the road. That is just what is left in Nigeria. Everybody is overtaxed. Everybody. You want to buy crayfish in the market, you are paying more because the woman who is selling the crayfish has already paid more and wants to recoup from you. So you end up paying more. That is tax. You might not know it, but everybody is literally, you can think, the funny thing about this is that you don't have to work, you don't have to be employed to pay tax in Nigeria. You just have to be alive to pay tax. Because whatever you want to buy, the seller paid a very huge amount of money as tax. When they are transporting that crayfish from Lagos to Ogun State, they paid a lot of money on the road. Police will collect some bribe, soldiers are checkpoints to collect. So when they get to the final destination and they want to sell to you, they put all of those money on top of that crayfish and get their money back from you. In essence, you are paying that tax. That is just how Nigeria is run. And it is shameful and annoying how it is run. How there will be oil in Delta State and then Kano State is getting the tax from oil in Delta State. Or getting dividend from it is bad. I'm not an economist, but I think Nigeria needs to go far back to the drawing board and trace how they have missed the steps, recalculate, and come back to re-strategize. Because if we continue going the way it is going, I don't know what it will be 10 years from now. I don't know. But right now in Nigeria, if you're a governor and you can pay salary promptly, you will be celebrated. You will be celebrated for paying in time. You will be celebrated for adding 2,000. You will be celebrated for doing a 15-kilometer road. You will be celebrated. In fact, if you are a governor in Nigeria and you as much as engage the citizen, you will be celebrated. Because it is rare for a governor to listen to the citizen and respond to their questions. So when you do that, when you come out in the public and wave your hand at the citizens of the state, interact with them, you will be celebrated. They will say you are the best governor because you even come out at all. Some other ones don't come out. They just stay in the office and then they fly to Abuja and they fly to Dubai and then that's it. Thank you.
Doc, thank you for that. And Doc, let me just say this, that every woman that is taking care of somebody is an economist. Every woman, especially women, is an economist. Every one of you, because you folks are the ones doing choice, scarcity, demands, needs. You are the CFOs of the homes. So we are all economists. And I think you made some points here that just drive it home. You have invested, you are an FDI. You have brought foreign direct investments to your home state in Nigeria. And instead of you to be celebrated, to be given taxes, to say, hey, you've brought one, can you employ two? Can you bring in more to your state? They are taxing you. So what will happen if you had a deal in Australia and they said, hey, we have all these machines for cancer, we don't need them anymore, we want to donate it to you in Nigeria, can you take them to Nigeria? You wouldn't waste your time doing that because the headache will be too much for you. And that's where Nigeria is getting it wrong. I read a story about a guy that went to the US, he's a disabled guy or so, and they gave him machines, medical equipment to bring back to Nigeria to set up a hospital. Customs held the machines in Lagos that were demanding for IGR. The guy said this is a foundation. It's charity. This is going to be set up if something in line. They demanded for customs duty. If he pays duty, who does it? Who has it helped? Who has that IGR helped? So again, you go back to the point about the fiscal federalism. States are working and it's being shared to other states that are quote unquote not working. That has to stop. Everything is linked to, like I said, the federal fiscal revenues, the census, the population, they are all linked together. And states have got to man up and deliver for their citizens. It's just that we make enough taxes, but they spend it on waste. That's really what's going on. So, Doctor, again, thanks for you for investing in Nigeria. We appreciate you for investing. And we hope many people will not be discouraged. We've got to keep pushing, and we just have to keep pushing. That's just it, right? Victor, what's on your mind? You are here, you dropped up. Victor, what's happening?
Yeah, hi, good evening. Thank you so much for the awesome insights you've been sharing. And of course, Dr. John, to talk about, and she made mention of a very key thing. She said they are alive in Nigeria to be taxed. You don't have to work. And you don't have to work to be taxed. I'm from, working with an oil and gas, like a tweet earlier today by Dr. Mole, and he just also said something in that line. Remember when I go to the tax office, I work in the tax office to go and file tax. You see many companies come there at the accounting year when they want to file, probably want to pursue a contract. And that's when they realize that not being, the act not being paid. And what do they now do? They start to negotiate. Some of them probably have about maybe 15 million, tax obligation, and then they are paying for 5 million. And that is what you see, because these companies or these individuals are paying the tax that they are being taxed, the use of the tax that is being taken. So it's only when they are forced to pay the tax that even rather than paying the tax, they rather go and look a way to negotiate out of that. And what happens is because, number one, we are not seeing work, and number two, the tax burden is high already. So the question about whether Nigerians is that yes, Nigerians overtaxed. Income is very, very high. We don't have enough. If we don't, the rate Nigerian already is. I mean, look at food inflation, and then you now come and now them. So companies are already trying to evade the tax because they are not seeing the use of the tax. And you see some companies, some of them don't even have the name on their and all in the name of it for paying this tax, not because they don't have.
Victor, your audio is cutting in and out. I'm not sure if it's just me, but it's breaking in and out. And you're making some great points there. So I wondered if you could. I saw you logging in now. Could you log in again and log back in and just take it again? It's cutting, breaking in now. And if that's going to work for you, will that work for you, Victor? Okay, let me get Cindy. Cindy, there you go. How are you doing?
Hello, good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm fine, thank you, Carl.
Great. Yeah, go for it.
All right. The question is, are Nigerians overtaxed? I will say yes.
Yeah.
Very well overtaxed. Mm-hmm. Looking at taxations in line with other countries, I would say Nigerians are highly overtaxed with regards to corporation tax, personal income tax, all the taxes you can think of. Nigerians are highly overtaxed. Looking at taxes like VAT, initially from the previous administration, VAT was originally taxed at 5%, but however, it rose to 7.5% in the last administration. Why? A period when the economy was really struggling, businesses were struggling. What did the government do? Rather, they only look at how to, tax the citizens, raise this money. What do they do with the money? We have no idea. Also, going by CIT, companies in the developed world, with countries like the UK, if a company makes a loss, they are not allowed to pay tax. But Nigeria, the government came back again in 2020 or 2021 thereabout,
Yeah.
reintroduced 0.5% on turnover for CIT for companies. Why? Companies struggling who are not allowed to pay taxes in other places so as to help them revive their businesses. Government came back to say, okay, no, instead of not paying at all, why not we introduce 0.5% on your turnover? So if a company makes a turnover of say billion naira, you'll be charging about 5 million or so for turnover, where the company probably has, cash flow problem
Interesting.
or something like that. That's gone on and on and on, making businesses to be closing down. We see all these companies leaving Nigeria, struggling. These are the problem with Nigeria, but that no one is talking about. Also, you come back to states like Lagos states whereby they just roll out letters at times for PIT, personal income tax, whereby they just assess where you live, come to a particular vicinity and say, okay, everybody living around this area, belong to the high net worth, and they just put a figure in the letter and send to you, a roll and send to your houses and say, okay, you're owing this amount, please come to LRS and pay this tax. You see people start debating this amount and all of that. It's a big struggle for Nigerians. These things are not talked about properly. They are not okay. Also, we look at taxes like consumption tax, which is being collected by legal states. How do you, launch in a place like a hotel, after charging you VAT on everything you paid for in that place, they also charge you consumption tax. What for? What's the consumption tax for? What are all these monies used for? We don't have the breakdown. We don't have any of the data to support what the taxes collected are being used for. Killing businesses and individuals. These things are really, really disturbing. Also, you look at toll gate fees like in Lagos. When you pass Lekki toll gate before, you pass 5 times, you pay 5 times. You pass 10 times, you pay 5. These are all taxes. Also, if you go to places like the markets in Lagos, the unstructured and informal tax system is not talked about so much. Like let's say a guy is carrying a truck. That guy carries, like say a carton of tomato. He passes somewhere, he pays every time he passes somewhere, money is collected by somebody. Where does that money go? That money is not accounted for. So we have all these problems in Nigeria. People don't talk about it. It's really, really sad. We talk about government collecting withholding tax. State government will collect withholding tax. FRS will collect withholding tax. And then at some point in time, FRS came back and said, oh, withholding tax dated after a certain time, you cannot use it because it has passed, a certain time for which your money that has been deducted from your services that you were supposed to use to offset your liability. They say no, you can't use it because probably the government is tight with cash flow. They are trying to raise money. Why should the society function like that? Why? These are serious issues that are really killing the economy. They might be small, but in the long run, they are big issues that should be addressed and looked at properly. Otherwise, we are only going into, I don't know, we are really struggling.
Cindy, talk more on this turnover tax again. Just say it so people can get what you're saying. Is there an exemption? Who pays this turnover tax? Just yeah.
Yes, normally all companies are supposed to pay tax on profits. Tax is corporation tax on profit normally. Government, there's a turnover threshold. When you make a turnover over 25 million, you're supposed to pay tax, whether you make a profit or you make a loss. So in line with the Nigerian context and the other world's like I'll say the UK where I'm practicing as well. In the UK, when a company makes the loss, they are exempted tax and they carry the loss forward for how many years? For about 4 years and offset that loss whenever they make profit. In Nigeria, that was the case. But in 2020, the government came back and said no. Rather than not paying anything at all, why not we introduce the 0.5% on your turnover? Normally, corporation tax in Nigeria is 20% on your profits. However, they came back and said no. If you've made a loss, rather than not paying anything to the government, you're not paying any CIT. So let's take 0.5% of your turnover Whether you have tight cash flow, whether you don't have, they don't care. They just collect that 0.5% of your turnover. So if a company is making billions and billions of naira, if you take 0.5% of their turnover in times where they are really struggling, a serious amount of money which can be invested in the business bounce back. In other countries, you see when businesses are struggling, government roll out plans, give them cash, funds to support their businesses, ask businesses how they can support them. But in Nigeria, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. It's really, really, it's all about the struggle, how the government can collect from you, and collect from you. It's really sad. Also, another big, serious problem we have in Nigeria are tax consultants. Like, it's a problem. Like, I would say 80% of companies in Nigeria don't declare the actual PAYE on their accounts. Why? You have crazy tax consultants who will come out and tell you, okay, just pay this, just declare this, just pay this, and then give us the balance. Or even for your corporation tax, they say, okay, they compute the actual tax liability and say your tax liability should be 2 billion. And then they say, okay, maybe the company is struggling. The tax consultant comes and say, okay, we are going to reduce this tax liability to say 300 million. Okay, for this 300, for the work we've done, this is what you have to do for us. Give us 500 million for our team. We have to share that, put the paperwork in place and then close the tax audit or whatever. These are serious issues. No society functions like that. It has eaten deep in the society where almost all the companies in Nigeria, even the listed companies, don't declare their actual profits. It's really, really sad.
So you're saying that essentially they just work with the tax consultant and they're able to get the discounts without.
100%. It happens all the time. All the time it happens.
Lots of issues to take. I mean, doctor already said that you don't have to make income to be taxed. You just have to be alive and they'll tax you.
Exactly. That's how it really works in
I'm going to use.
society. But in Nigeria, it's not.
But doctor,
A few days ago, they rolled out another tax they have to collect for citizen or bank transfers you make. That society cannot function that way. It can't. You can never grow a society like that.
Well, thanks so much for giving us the accounting side of it. I mean, it's crazy, like you said, turnover tax. So if I'm just making turnover, not profit, not income, just turnover, which is not my money, I get taxed.
Yes.
That's a big one.
You pay tax on that turnover, exactly. Those are the problems.
Yeah. Well, Cynthia, hang in there in case I see lots of hands. In case someone has a question on tax for you. Let me get to Ukuka, Mr. Kosi. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Cynthia. Victor, is your audio back on now?
Yeah, I believe it's back now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Oh, great. So, I mean, listening to the last speaker, she just said everything I was going to say. She just said everything. And I was going to add that when you go to the tax office, when you go to the FIRS and the Internal Revenue Service in the state, you see these things happen every time. You see companies that know that this is their tax burden, but then because they know that this tax is not, you're not hearing me?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. So, but because the companies know that this, I mean, if I give the government this thing, it's not going to even do the work that it's supposed to do. So let me just negotiate to the tax consultant. There was a case of where the company I was working with for about 5 years, the company was owing tax, right? And then we kept on going back and forth and multiple millions. But what happened when we got to the office and had a very long discussion with the tax consultant? He directed us to an officer. And then the next thing we saw was, you know what, don't worry, go back, we'll get back to you. And by the time they got back to us, they told us, don't worry, just pay about 500,000. And that's it. So why is this the case? So many layers upon layers of, so why will a company even decide not to be faithful with their tax? Because obviously, I'm not seeing the work that's been done with this tax. So obviously, if I don't see the job, then I'm not going to pay the tax. And if there is a loophole where I can discuss with maybe a tax consultant or a tax officer. There was even a case where 2 tax officers were discussing, and then one was saying that the money he has gotten for the whole of 2021 from negotiating with companies is enough for his salary. That's all his salary throughout the year 2021. He has gotten that money from negotiating with companies. So you see, even though the government wants to tax the companies, there's already multiple layers of loopholes, and then because if you pay what you are due, you're not going to see the work. So why would I even pay at the end of the day? So at the end of the day, we keep on seeing government increasing the tax and trying to widen the net because they're not seeing the money. And then even if they see the money ends up in private pockets.
I mean, interesting point. I mean, it's the same team again. We pay too much tax, and the one that we pay, we don't see the benefits. So that vicious cycle then develops. We're paying, we're not seeing the effects. So again, it keeps developing. Good point. Let's run the room. I've got First Light. First Light. Thanks, Victor. First Light, what's your mind? First Light, what's up? Let's get Uche Joss. Uche Joss, go ahead. Uche Joss going once, Uche Joss going twice. Vehement, Nas Vehement. Hey, can you guys hear me? Is it me?
Hello.
Yeah, First Light. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, how are you guys? Good evening. I love the discussion. I'm Nigerian overtaxed. I will say it's on both sides. I think if you look at the other systems that I have mentioned, in those countries where they pay higher taxes, Carlo, you know what shocks me the most? The things that shock me the most that happens in Nigeria is the fact that, like somebody just said here, if government come up, like you said, in Lagos, consumption tax, and we complain about it, in a system where everything works, somebody will have challenged it in the court.
They did. They challenged it in the court. And it's legal. It's legal.
Is what?
It's legal.
It's legal.
Yeah.
Okay. So, secondly, the taxes that we talk about here, the informal tax is what kills a lot of business.
True.
In Nigeria. Informal tax. Let me give you an example. I have a friend in Abuja who has a rice factory in South Africa, Zimbabwe. He had a granite one in Ethiopia. I've said this thing on your space before. For him to start the one in South Africa, it took him only 6 months. The one in Zimbabwe, it took him 5 months. The one in Nigeria took him 2 years, 8 months. But guess the shocking part of it? Every month, anytime a truck comes in to pick rice, and like 1 or 2 trucks leave his place of rice, there is a police checkpoint right in front of him. Those police people will collect money from him. Then the local government chairman of that area where he's producing that rice must send somebody that same week to come and collect money. Then when that's finished, the so-called magaji of that area will send somebody to come and collect money. You see, the reason I'm saying this is that I know people will not agree with me. And this is not costing the federal alone. When you go to the state, it's even more bad. It's even terrible in the state. I heard somebody who said when you are bringing in something out of Benue, before you leave Benue, before you drive out of Benue, you pay more than 7 tax before you drive out of Benue.
And that's the food basket of Nigeria.
I think what we need to think more about is how to deal with this. Yes, those informal taxes.
Okay.
Was it in the Kitty State? Something happened a few days ago. They said some tradition. Can you hear me?
Your audio is not that golden, but we can hear you. So I want you to wrap up and then log back. Your audio is not that golden, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is that now?
Bro, you're go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. First, let me get you sort that audio.
Maybe someone else.
Yeah, sure. Let me get Vehement. First, I sort that audio out. Let me get Vehement. Are you ready to speak, sir?
Okay.
Vehement going once. Ndubisi Nkwaku Kosi. Vehement, your hand is up. I asked you to speak and not speak, so I'm going to take you to step you down if you don't mind.
I'm here.
Go ahead, sir.
I was trying to help you. Yes, good evening. It's an honor to it's my be able to speak on this platform. So I just wanted to speak on another area, as regards streamlining, Nigeria being able to streamline their taxes, and aside the overburden of taxes on Nigerians, there's a lot that is even still lacking in the government being able to track, and being able to streamline a lot of these taxes. Even if we focus on things like CIT, things like VAT, even the way I know there has been an improvement in recent times, especially in the FIRS and setting up their system and upgrading their system. There has been a lot of improvement, but then the government has not been able to you also spoke about even getting like a data bank for the identity of Nigerians, and being able to track, every Nigerian has their own ID and identity and all that. So the government has not even been able to streamline taxes in a way that it is transparent, and then it is being remitted to the right sources. If they can even actually do that, taxes will be raised, and as in more taxes will come in. If the government can do that, instead of introducing, trying to say that, instead of introducing new taxes every day, even the existing ones, if you are able to invest, in ICT, and then you are able to build up this system, maybe digitize it, it will go a long way to even bring in more taxes from the already existing taxes. But then, what Nigerian government likes to do is, they set out to do one thing, it's not working. Instead of to stay on it and fix that thing, then they divert and start doing on that thing. You don't have good roads, right? The existing roads are bad. Well, they want to build a new road. You understand? You don't have good system in place. Instead of staying and fixing it, you want to implement a new system. We have different IDs now. We have NIM, we have PVN, we have. I think they're even trying to introduce another one or so. But if they could stay and fix this BVN, everybody must have the BVN. You understand? Okay, everybody have BVN and NIM, and this is how they choose to identify people. And then implement it, digitize it, bring it up to standard. But then they don't do that. You get it.
So yeah,
you just focus on.
you are talking about just making the process itself more efficient, making it.
Exactly, the process. If you can make the process even efficient, taxes will go up, because a lot of people are hiding under, or companies that are hiding under, probably, or like someone mentioned, people sometimes might bribe their way out. If you can implement a transparency, what Alex Oti did in Abia State, people talk about non-state actors that are also collecting informal tax. But what is the solution to this? Digitize everything. Digitize all the taxes. So, and then it becomes more transparent. The process becomes more a better process. And you can realize more money from that. But because there are several non-state actors that, people, different hands in different pockets, they don't want to have the political will to do these things. Instead, they will introduce another tax. So that's just one of the issues of Nigeria. You can focus and build our systems, build our processes, be more efficient with our processes. The existing tax, can even be, you get in more from the existing taxes.
So making more efficiency would actually increase the volume, even if you don't increase the tax base per se.
Exactly. Even if you increase the tax, if you improve the process and improve the efficiency, you actually will get more.
Good point. Good point.
But then you don't want to do that. You just start introducing new taxes here and there.
Good point.
Very scattered again.
Love that. Let me get Nkuka Kosi. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Sir Carlo.
How you doing?
Wonderful, sir. Very fine. So, I think number one, I think Nigerians are very overtaxed. But I think the major problem is coming from the civil service itself, and that's why I think the points made by the last speaker may not really work. The digitization. They've tried this digitization in many civil service offices, and many of the civil servants will fight against it. And in a way, I think I understand why most of them will fight against it. Number one, I think that the civil service is grossly underpaid. They're grossly underpaid. That's why most of the time when you go to most of their offices, many of them are either taking up second jobs or selling odd things like that while at the offices. And apart from being underpaid, the recruitment process for most of the civil service areas is highly corrupted. It's highly corrupted in the way that in most of them that I have seen, there's one person that massively recruits so many. Yeah, he plugs in many people for maybe his ethnic group or something like that, and he actively collects a percentage of their salaries, and he collates them, and that percentage is being sent to his account or whatever, or her account. Like that. I used to know that even in Abia, and also one person that like 20% of his salary is being collected by one of the at the top like that. In Lagos, many of the Loma women, I think around 2022, I think they were paying them around 18,000. Out of that, like 5,000 was being collected by one organ like that. So in that instance, wherein you're collecting a meager pay, and then on top of that, you came in through a very big back door. You understand? It doesn't promote a culture of it doesn't promote the adoption of the culture of transparency. You understand? And that's why informal analog in quotes, analog ways of collecting taxes, collecting many of these things will always. That's why they will always provide. They always want that kind of system in place. Like that. It's like what you got at. It's like what you get in many custom offices. You go to maybe is it custom? Yeah, custom office. If you want to do your FRA, if you want to do your
Yeah, but of course, let me ask you this question. Do you think that they are paid low, or do you think that because they are unproductive, they are paid low?
I think they are paid low.
Not because they are unproductive.
No. I don't think that they are paid. That they are.
What's the output, or when I mean the output, what wealth does a civil servant in Nigeria create?
So in a way, I think that they are supposed. So see what I think. Yeah, I think that if you're paid well, you can maintain efficiency and follow the set of laid down protocols.
No, but which one comes first? Like in Singapore, when Lee Kuan Yew started, he said he was going to make the civil service elite, the best in Singapore. He put in the civil service. He paid them at the very highest level. So the Singapore civil servants earn as much as what we'll call here maybe bankers. And that's where you then saw the economy. Well, because they ran the country, you see Singapore today. And that's how Nigeria was in the 70s. What I'm asking is that today, but the Singapore guys create wealth. Look at Singapore Airlines. It's government owned. That's why Singapore Airlines is government owned. Can you name one institution that starts with an N that is creating wealth? Maybe NFA or NIMASA or NNPC. Anything that starts with an N that is creating wealth for the Nigerian government. Nigeria has the only oil company I've seen in my life that Nigerians subsidize, the citizens subsidize. It should be in Nigeria. The only oil company I've seen where the citizens subsidize the oil company. So we're not creating wealth. NNPC is a liability, not an asset to Nigeria. A liability. So if you don't create wealth, how can you get paid more? Look at the banks create wealth. That's why they pay their guys well. The IT firms create wealth. They pay their people well. Even farmers. You can argue some farmers. I mean, the point I'm making is that is salary a consequence or a causation? What is salary? Is it consequence or causation?
Okay, but see it this way, yeah? If you paid more, are you getting me? You can be more motivated to retain fairness. If there's fairness in the recruitment process and you cut out many of these middlemen who create all these loopholes where there's ghost working and the rest like that, you will be able to get you'll be able to get a lot more in terms of the taxes that actually reaches the coffers of the federal government. I don't know if you got it. So this back door, which many of them tend to take, so I just think that the problem is the ethos.
No, I get the point you are making. I get the point you are making. What I'm asking is that if you look at the salary, does the salary motivate, or are you motivated and you get a salary? Is the salary causation, or is the salary really the causative? Which that's what I'm trying to figure out from you. Because if you say if I pay workers more, they will become more.
Yeah, to be honest, personally, I think from experience, I think salary motivates. If you pay me well, and if I have a good pension, if I know that I am being, my pension is being sorted, that's me personally. If I know that my pension is being sorted out, if I know that this is coming in and it can be sufficient enough to help me scale through at least to the end of the month without me having to borrow, you understand? That's
I see your
that
point.
even the inflation will not wipe out. I don't know if you get. I mean,
I see your point. I see where you're going to. I see your point. You are saying if I pay policemen in Nigeria well, they will do policing better. That's where you're going. That's where you're going to with this.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, but I'm just trying to see which one comes first. Should the policemen police better, then we pay them more, or should we just pay them more and hope for the best? Which one do you think should happen first?
I think that's the chicken and the egg question.
All right. I mean, but I see where you're coming from. Let me ask the accountant. Cindy, what's your take? What's your take? He's saying the salary is small and Nigerians don't get paid well, so he wanted to get paid well so that their productivity goes up. What's your take? What the numbers say?
All right, thank you. However, I think it's not about being paid well. You look at other countries, people are taxed based on how much, based on their disposable income, what is left at the end of the day. Say, for some countries, like in the UK, you have like what they call a personal allowance, which is about £12,000, £12,570. When you earn anything within that threshold, you're not paying tax. Regardless of your age, whatever work you're doing, you're not paying tax. In Nigeria, you have a consolidated allowance, which is spread across your salary to take out your PAYE. But these things are not arranged in a way that will make the average Nigerian understand their take-home pay at the end of the day. When you look at other places, like the gentleman who mentioned streamlining taxes, in a place like Nigeria, the population is so much whereby people are doing several things. There are so many small informal businesses that are not registered in the system. If the system is streamlined and digitalized, I think we should be able to, generate sufficient funds that at least could go a long way for the system. In a country like the UK, it's a crime for you to do a job or get paid without that money passing through your national insurance number. I think for people in the US, they have like the social security number as well, where they do the same thing. But in Nigeria, we just have systems where we can't even understand what they are doing with them. They just have your data, your information. We don't know what. The other time, BVN, we thought BVN was coming to do something good for us. Today, nothing. They came back again, NIN, nothing. So we have all these things scattered all over the place. They are not streamlined. So that's why the government comes back every now and then. Oh, they introduce a new tax scheme. Tomorrow they introduce another one because they can't even consolidate what they already have. They cannot streamline it, to be able to make it efficient for them and for the society. I think that's my take.
Interesting. Doctor, what's your take? Doctor, you worked in Nigeria, I believe. You work abroad now. Do you think it's more of a paying the Nigerians more and they do their job better? Or do you agree that the Nigerians should work first and then we should pay them? Doc, what's your take in Australia? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I'm going by the experiences I've had. People are happier when you pay them well, and then the happier the better. And when you are happy, you want to do better. And when you are, or rather, should I say, when you are appreciated, you want to do more to be more appreciated, right? I remember when I had my first guest house at Oshogo, and I was paying, back then I was paying 15,000. And when I saw my workers were very good, I increased it to 20,000. And when I stepped in the next day, they all lied on the floor to greet me. Like, no, get up. And they did more work. And when I saw how they were much work for them, I told them I was going to bring in 2 extra people to support. Do you know what these guys did? They called me and said, Madam, can you not bring in 2 extra people? Just add 10,000 to our money, or we will do all the work. You see that? They are ready to do more work to get more money. So you pay better, they work better. Because what is going on in society now is the police are not getting enough salary, so they turn their face to the citizen to recoup. So when you pay them 75,000, they go to the road and collect 400 naira to make it up maybe 100 or 200,000 because they need more money. It's the same thing everywhere. When you don't pay enough, in fact, when you are running a business and you are not paying your workers well, you stand a chance of losing money because your workers can steal from you to make up for that difference. So when you pay them well, they protect your business. They protect your interest. They don't want your customers, they want to stop customers to come and buy from you because they know that when they sell more, they get their salary in time and maybe even more and maybe even dash. Maybe sometimes it's good. Sometimes when I come in, I just give them maybe 1,000. Sometimes when I'm coming, I bring chocolate back for everybody. Sometimes I just go out and I just go to Chicken Republic and I just buy chicken for everybody. And they're happy and they're doing more work. The government of Nigeria are not employing these taxes. If you live in USA, there is one they call tax return. People are happy when they receive their tax return. So next year, they don't want to pay the paying tax. Because they know that when they pay, the more you pay, the more tax, or however it was, I don't live there. But this is what I know. And one thing I also want us to also look into is government is taxing the people too much already. And then there is bank that is doing worse. Right? I have not been in the country for a while, and my savings bank account is on the negative. The old 2,000 naira I left here has not been removed, and it's now about minus 700. So, which means I am owing Zoni Bank, and I didn't take a loan. They are charging for a card maintainer that I have not been using, a card I paid to collect. They are charging, if they send you a birthday message, they charge you. So the bank is taking so much money, the electronic transfer levy, even though when you make a transfer, you pay a fee. When I make a transfer, sometimes I pay 20 naira, sometimes I pay 53 naira, it depends on the amount. And then at the end of the month, there is a bulk amount that is removed as electronic transfer levy. Last month, I paid as much as 7,999 naira. That is 8,000 for an electronic transfer levy that I always pay even when I make a transfer. That is 2 times tax I am paying for making a transfer. So these are the issues that should be looked into. Nigerians, I think, if you look at it from a very wide perspective, you will say Nigerians are not just paying tax. They are being extorted by both the government and every other organization, maybe monetary or whichever one, but Nigerians are over-extorted in their own country. That's my take.
I think it's an important point to raise, Doctor, that in banking, credit has got to be approved. If you debit an account and it gets to 0, it should stop at 0. I'm just saying, it should stop at 0. To now make it go negative means that you've approved credit to an account. Where was it signed? Where did you sign for credit? So it's an important call out that you're making. Nigerian banks do this a lot. So a long time ago, we did an experiment where we put 1,000 naira in a bank account and we just watched it go from 1,000 naira every month, 100 naira, 100 naira, 100 naira, until it got to zeros and all that. It's wrong. It's wrong. And I think maybe it will stop when someone sues them. And I know many people have sued on this. You've got to sue and do a class action and attach a bank and say, I put money in this account, I haven't transferred money, why am I owing you? I didn't ask for credit, you've given me credit and now I'm owing you. And when you owe them, all things being equal, if your credit is pulled in Nigeria, you show that you're a delinquent borrower and you never asked for credit. So it's a lot going on there, and I hope that they will stop it. It's a bad practice to put someone's account in debit over transaction fees when there's been no transaction initiated by the customer. If that's in the US, you are going to pay a lot of money. For Nigeria, I guess, it's what's it called, non-interest income, and then it will post a huge profit in the quarter. So it has to stop. Maybe one business day we'll pick one bank, ask guys to send us screenshots of their account that has gone from zero to negative, and then we'll talk about it on Spaces. We're going to call people out, I guess, and then we'll take it from there. AY Maxima, guys, we're winding down. We've got about, say, 25 minutes to go for everyone to speak. Been a great topic. Nigerians overtaxed. The answer has been yes, Nigerians are overtaxed. Clearly, that was the only correct answer. We are clearly overtaxed. Not just the formal taxes, the informal taxes, the cost of doing business, the cost of being a Nigerian is a tax itself. So we're just putting the colors to the skeleton, but the answer has always been yes from the start. Go. AY, you've got the floor, sir.
Yes. I've been listening. I'm not a tax professional. I am studying it at the moment. But my dad is a tax professional, and sometimes your father tries to impart knowledge on you. And from what I explained to me from more than 30 years of taxation in Nigeria, it's like he studied it very deeply. He practices it actively over to today. He's not retired yet. What he has taught me is that people like to take advantages of loopholes, no matter the country. One. Two, people also like to take advantage of government inefficiencies. Now, that is the problem we have in Nigeria. And Nigerians are overtaxed. In a lot of respects, you could say yes. But on the flip side, some people will say Nigeria are not taxing enough. They're not being taxed enough in some respects. Because in ECOWAS, if you do everything, you notice that on paper, Nigerians are taxed less. But when you put into account all the other levies and everything on, you will notice that, oh wait, that might actually be overtaxed, or depending on your perspective. My own opinion on the matter is, you need to encourage small businesses to thrive. There are businesses that shouldn't even be taxed at all. Now, those indirect or unofficial taxes, they are an illegality. If they're not written on paper in the law, they should not even exist. Government should do everything possible to make sure that itself is removed. One. Two, if you want to collect more tax, says from people, you also need to justify it by giving us the benefit of those taxes, either by security rules or whatever you call it. Now, there's even a lot of things that still needs to be changed. And I know the president is a taxman, he's trained in that field. I've done my research on his professional dealings or whatever, what he's trained in. I know he knows these issues. I'm pretty sure about that. But, the problem is that you need political will. Yeah, I'm coming. You need political will. And a lot of people don't like you touching their money. So there'll be a lot of pushback. You understand what I'm trying to say? So right now, I think most people the government already understands the issue. Even business people that have been speaking to probably have said everything people on this space have said to him. But I think we, as ourselves as citizens, talk to our representatives. Let us do that. If the law is not favorable to us and we say, okay, something is legal, you can change the law. How do you change the law? By telling your representatives that, hey, look, we don't want this to be legal anymore. So we must do everything in our power to make sure these things don't happen. And also, we must not encourage all those informal taxation. If nobody's paying it, then something has to give. Pay what is due to Caesar. But what is not due to him, you have no, if it's not by law, you have no reason to pay it.
I hear you.
The government is asking for more tax finally. The government is asking for more tax. The government is asking for more tax. It's incumbent on us, okay, fine, we'll pay the tax, but we will follow up with you. Enough with this trying to shadily trying to avoid taxation. Although it's done by the world, we must hold them. If you're going to collect this tax, you must hold them by the trousers and say, we paid you this tax, we want to see it. Because taxing gives us more leverage on all those kind of things. That's how I see it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, the point is, We support the government cutting taxes. No, I started the space by saying that Nigeria's tax to GDP is very, very low. So if you look at just that data point alone, you can tell that Nigeria needs to raise more tax revenues. But the problem is this: how much tax revenues and how are we going about to do this? You simply can't tax everybody. IGR cannot be the main focus of any government. It's got to be HDI, human development indicators. You've got to focus on what really matters to people: clean drinking water, cheap food, security. If you are taxing people and people are seeing water, they are seeing jobs, they are seeing power supply, people would pay taxes without you asking. But if you are taxing people, all they are seeing is SUVs and private jets, you're not going to get a penny. That's really where we're going to with this, really.
But sir, if a new administration comes in now and tries to change everything, Google tries to get rid of those SUVs, the amount of political pushback and frustration they will do on that administration is unfathomable. So if anybody wants to do anything, they must have the full support of the people. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And even that too, the people must be aware, because people to get manipulated. Because these people too that might be against all this SUV kind of thing, they'll pay people to come and make you look like maybe the government is doing the wrong thing. So it's a slippery slope. It's really not that easy. It's really not that easy. And even the government is trying to maybe get there eventually, it's going to us, the average citizens that are suffering it every day, it's going to look like it's a snail piece. And that's just the truth of the matter. That's the conundrum.
All right, I got you.
If I give position in the government to handle the tax issues in the country, the amount of frustration that people will put on you, people make you look like you're not doing anything.
Okay, good point. I hear you. First light, real quick, then we're winding down now. First light, let's just take the room and then we'll take it to close. Thank you so much. First light, go ahead.
Okay. So for me, in conclusion, if you want to sort out
revenue issue in Nigeria, digitalize everything. Digitalize everything. Let me give you my experience at the airport. The new parking this thing they did in Abuja. It's not they used to have a POS. Like you come, you just put your POS, whatever amount you do, you pay. I mean, you've been to Heathrow Airport before. In Johannesburg at the airport, when you park your car, when you come, all you need to do is slot in your card. It tells you how much you pay. You take your digital payment and go. In Nigeria, I realized that everybody circumvents every system that would make them pay. That is what is done in Nigeria. And that's why a tax officer will go behind the organization to speak to the person who ought to pay that tax for him not to pay. He gives him the loopholes. I don't think that happens in other systems, because you know that when you do that, it's going to affect you and affect the people, other people. So if you digitalize all these things, let me give you an example. Look at the IPPI they did in the Federal Civil Service. They already circumvent that thing to the level that everybody is complaining that it's not working. That we should throw it away, because it stops some people from doing the shitty job. So until we also get to a point in Nigeria that we know that when some people are crying, it's just to blackmail the system to allow them to have their way. And I mean, somebody speak about Lekki toll gate. I don't know anywhere in the world where they build a toll gate that you say when you pay in the morning, in the evening when you are using that same toll gate, you will not pay. It is not possible anywhere. Let anybody quote me on that. That you buy a ticket in the morning, when you're passing that same road in the evening, you will not pay a ticket. When you don't buy a month's ticket, or you buy a year's ticket.
Yeah, but if I didn't answer the question earlier, you asked the question and answered the question. If there are many toll gates where if you buy the month ticket, you pay a discounted rate. You've already answered the question. Most toll gates you don't pay. She's saying that when you pass the same toll gate, you pay the same rate. That's what she said. But we know that most toll gates, when you pass multiple times, you get a reduced rate, and you know it. You just answered it yourself.
No, come see. Like I said, look at the two toll gates in Lagos. It's because we just have this insinuation that somebody owns it, and then we stop somebody's business, and then a lot of people were laid off from those same toll gates. So these are things that people who want to come and invest in Nigeria will see. If we can do that, look at the airports. The Babalaki airports. The same thing happened. The opposite airport. But the point is that when we digitalize Nigerians, we do not want to do. Look, our NIM, our BVN, is good enough to capture anything we want to capture. But guess what? I still know people today, they have bank account, they don't have BVN. So the banks are corporate. Look, I've said it time without number. If you also want to straighten in Nigeria, how can a bank, even when people were losing their money, bank is declaring profit? And yet those things, I think Nigerian bank is one of the biggest scam in this economy.
You can't say that banks can make money if individuals are losing money, because the bulk of Nigerian customers are not individuals. You heard the NDIC say that.
Let me explain to you.
Let's do data now. Let's not make blanket statements.
No, wait now. Let me quickly say this to you. The telco company are complaining that the bank did not pay them for the money, the USSD we use. Let me give you an example. If I send money to my account from my GT to my GT, they charge me on both sides. What kind of charges is that? And this started under Emefiele. They charge me on both sides in the same for my same account. So when I say that this is a scam, when we complain about
no, you are making a blanket statement.
You understand?
Yeah.
We need to complain about the services we get from the Nigerian companies. Do not give you those services that even when you pay, you are satisfied with paying. I fly in and one of the airlines, they canceled my flights. I'm asked to go to the counter and pick the money. I go to the counter, the staff there, all of them told me that they can't pay me. It took them 1 month to pay me back. So some of these things that you see, these are not things that is obtainable. But they take advantage of you. They take those things from you and they tell you that it's a system. So like I said, it works both ways. Until every section from government to the citizens change their attitude towards paying for services, and then you get better services you require. Thank you very much.
All right. So again, you made a lot of blanket statements. The Nigerian banking as an institution is not paying the GSM guys their services. But I know that many Nigerian individual banks wanted to. No, Opgoga, I let me mute you. First light, you got to allow people to speak so that you speak, so that way people can follow. I'm making it just a point that individual banks did want to pay, and that wasn't accepted. If you notice that same report from Emefiele, he stopped individual banks paying. He wanted the banking sector as a whole to settle the GSM fees, not individual banks. That's one. Number two, essentially, Nigeria is a very, very poor country. The bulk of the deposits are below 500,000. When you see the banks posting billionaire deposits, it's from the same individuals, just recycled through all the banks. So when Nigerian folks say Nigerian banks are making profit when economies are not making a profit, it's because the same individuals that are just going through the same banks. You can't expect a poor nation, right, to have rich individuals. That's the point I'm making. This country's minimum wage is still 30,000 naira a month. Don't even bother converting that to dollars. It's still 30,000 naira a month as your minimum wage in Nigeria until it's changed. Let's get Greg. Gregory, your hand is up. I'll get you so I can just put your hands down. I can get it.
Hello. No. Good evening. Okay. Let me just
real quick, Gregory. Real quick.
Yes. Because I just want to. There was a topic that was why I raised my hand.
Okay, so let's take it down. Okay, that's fine. That's completely fine.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Okay. So that maybe in case the investors, yes, please, I like to.
Hello, good evening. My name is Sokonwo Charles. I read it. Quickly, I just want to make a. Can you hear me?
Charles, you yourself, like, you wait and we'll call you to speak. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Greg, go ahead.
So as I was saying, having been operated as a business consultant operating in the Nigerian space, and in the hopes of those getting foreign investment, because I want to keep all this information. In Nigeria, just any business orientation you have or any business framework you have, just when you are coming to Nigeria, just know that it can go upside down. Because yes, we are talking about pay, but I personally know companies where they are paid good. The staffs are paid well, and it is those same staff that are paid well that did the heaviest of damages to the companies. in Nigeria.
You guys are making blanket statements. You guys are making blanket statements. You just can't say you know this. The staff update. You have no proof. You have none. So let's stick to specifics, not blanket statements.
Once again, as I said, I'm a business consultant.
It doesn't matter.
I'm talking from
It doesn't
my
matter.
experience. I'm not
It doesn't
speaking
matter.
from-
It doesn't matter. We're all business consultants. I'm a business consultant too. The point I'm making is if you come, make it specific. You can say company A employ this person. So I don't want generics, because if you someone's not listening to this space, you say if you come to Nigeria. So be specific, so that way we can follow. That's just the point I'm making. I don't want generalities. Let's try to be specific. You can call someone out. I'll let you do that. All right. No,
I can't do that.
All right. So okay.
These are
I hear you. I hear you. No worries. All right.
Okay, no problem, sure.
All right. Thank you.
But just get that at the back of
I hear you, sir.
It must not be necessary.
All right. Got you. Preacher, you've got the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Carla. So my little contribution is that Nigerians are not overtaxed. The problem is that Nigerians are taxing the wrong people living under the poverty line. According to World Bank, people who you require like $1.15 a day to live above the poverty line or on the poverty line per individual. If you check that in naira, that should be around 3,000. For every normal individual to be above poverty line, you need at least 3,000 naira spending power every day per individual, not per family. And if you check the deposit or transactions of Nigerians that have bank accounts, majority of them fall below this line. And the chunk of tax the government are collecting is from these same people. So you make it seem as we are overtaxed. It's just that we don't earn money. If it is in other countries, most of Nigeria will be below the tax belt. That means most of Nigeria are not required to pay tax because what they are earning is not enough to even sustain life.
So you are saying that essentially we are collecting payee, and that payee is the bulk of the taxes, and because that payee is not a living wage, we're not supposed to even tax that payee. Am I getting you right?
Yes, this is for people who are in the formal sector. For those who are not in formal sector, like people who open small businesses, people who are in transport, if you can interview maybe one keke driver or one bus driver and see the kind of bulk of money they pay out every day, or if you open a small kiosk business, I'm in Abuja, if you open any small kiosk business, just be sure that you will be seeing at least 15 different tax groups every month to come and collect money. And they don't ask you how much do you make here. What is your capital to know the belt they will put you on? You understand? So to somebody who has the same provision store that have capital of 15 million will be taxed the same way as some other provision store that have a capital of 500,000. All of them pay. If they want to charge you for waste management, the same amount. If they want to charge you for security, the same amount. They want to charge you for clearing, the same amount. So there is no, like somebody said, about streamlining what people earn and what people can be taxed. So Nigeria is not about tax. Nigeria is just taxing the wrong people. There is one presidential candidate that said that you don't tax people who are poor. They need to lift them up so that you collect money. That's just the problem. Because if I have 1,000 naira for my upkeep today, and government is collecting from what I do, government is collecting, even if it's 100 naira from it, it's very painful because that one is not enough for me.
It's very regressive moment, yeah. And I think it's a good point. It's a good point to it because the bulk of the taxes come from payee in Nigeria. Then I think we have VAT. That's a separate one. But payee is the bulk of the taxes because corporate goes to the federal government. Nigeria's largest revenue source is corporate income tax. then I believe it's then VAT next. So in essence, we are underemployed, underpaid, but we are overtaxed because most of the tax in Nigeria is regressive. If, like you said, you open up a store, they will come and tax you the same amount of money, which makes it regressive. You're going to pay the same as a shop that has larger capital. You would pay the same with them. So that's a very, very good point that you raised up. Chime is here. Mr. Francis, Preacher, thanks. I appreciate you making that point. Francis, your hand is up.
Okay, good evening. I believe it's me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good evening, sir. I consider it an honor to be on your space for the very first time. I always see the re-information and I will check the reminder. But my engagement on Sundays doesn't allow me to come, so today I have the time and I'm here. So, are Nigerians overtasked? So, yeah, from the person that just dropped the last submission, I have a bit of his side, and at the same time, I don't totally agree with him. Nigerians are overtaxed. So depending on which side or which state of the Nigeria that you are doing businesses. Okay, so I am in Lagos, but I have a little knowledge of people running where I come from, and also the ones we do in Lagos. So I have a company that I work with, and the little closeness to some of the top directors, I have privy information of what government is doing with companies. So I don't know the double taxing in Nigeria. There are taxes that I don't even understand what it means. So recently, at the close of 2023, the people that are doing this, like gaming, gambling, the football betting, and all these things, the government started taxing what they call commission tax, number one. Then two, they call consumption tax. And the third one is somehow funny. It's a turnover tax. So I know how that business operates. So the first people are the people that sells the tickets to the punters. So the second people, so if you talk of lottery, are the people that stand as middleman between the company and the people that say direct to the ordinary man on the street of Lagos and other parts of the Nigeria. So in these three channels of this business, each of them pays tax on commission tax and the consumption tax and the COTs. So that's aside working. If you open a shop or you want to sell anything in the shop, so you have local government tax that they give different names. The popular one in Lagos is lock-up shop. You pay lock-up shop. There are another group of people that come, signage, this thing, and there's several kind of things around your shop. And at least you pay four different kinds of tax. I might not have the correct names now because it's tiring.
So can I get you to sort of,
if you have
like you to if you could land the ship, sir. If you could maybe speak up, land the ship, so I can just get others to speak if you don't mind, sir. Can you make your point?
Okay. So my point is that Nigerians or the public or even the organized sectors are not really aware of how many tax
a particular business pays in Nigeria. If you look at it, it's up to 10, and all of them are double tax. So before we go to banking sector, so we are overtaxed. No matter the level of the business you are doing, the companies are crying because too much tax. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that, guys. We've got about. Just want to thank everyone that has contributed. It's a very important topic, and Nigerians paying a lot of taxes. I think the answer has been a conclusive yes. We are paying a lot in volume, in number, and in percentage share of our income. We are paying a lot of taxes, and it behooves on the government to essentially lower the tax rates because we are in a recessionary period. Whole